These battles of October have all the makings of another classic, the Fall Classic. A time when every pitch, every swing gives you goosebumps. Jack Morris was continuing his classic World Series form, but these Braves always seem to have a secret weapon. And on this night, the weapon was Damon Berryhill. So tonight, the confrontations continue. David Cone for the Blue Jays, John Smoltz for the Braves. Two pitchers with big guns as the battles of October continue. Outside Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, there's a statue of the greatest Brave of them all, Henry Aaron. And inside, they pay tribute to the other legendary Braves of the past, Warren Spahn, Eddie Matthews, and Phil Niekro. This year, the Braves have an assortment of unlikely heroes. There was Francisco Cabrera coming off the bench to win Game 7 of the NLCS. What a moment that was. And last night, another backup catcher, Damon Berryhill, stepped up to the plate to win Game 1 of the World Series. And as the jubilant crowd packs into this downtown ballpark, you can sense that they're expecting another miracle. And in fact, the only question on their minds is who will provide it tonight. The South has risen, and Atlanta claimed Game 1, but they call this the World Series, not the World Game. And Toronto would be more than happy to earn a split in the home of the Braves before we all split for north of the border. So coming up, the Toronto Blue Jays and the Atlanta Braves. It's Game 2 of the 1992 World Series here on CBS. 2 World Series. You know, we spoke about the moving past of the Braves. The franchise began in Boston. There, they split 2 World Series before heading west to become the Milwaukee Braves, where in the late 50s, they again split 2 World Series before moving south. Last year, Atlanta lost in 7. Now they're up a game. And yes, in case you're wondering, they are planning to move again eventually to Olympic Stadium, which hasn't been built yet here in Atlanta. Well, once again, Jim Cott joins us. And Kitty, the Toronto Blue Jays have been in this spot before, haven't they?
Well, the Blue Jays lost Game 1 of the American League Championship Series in dramatic form. Harold Baines hit the home run in that one. Psychologically, it will not be a factor. This is a very loose veteran ball club, and when you look at their record this entire season, they have never been swept in a series, not even a short 2-gamer like this one.
Let's talk a moment about the keys for tonight's Game 2.
Well, I think for Toronto at the top of the lineup, Devon White and Roberto Alomar will now hit from the left side. They're a better 1-2 punch when they hit left-handed. And important, I think, because to get on against John Smoltz and get the running game going, something that's important to Toronto. You don't figure to hit a lot of home runs against Smoltz.
Kitty's had his reporter's hat on all day. Any changes in the Toronto lineup?
John Olerud will play first base and bat 5th. That means Joe Carter will go to left field, and Candy Maldonado will sit this one out.
What's Bobby Cox going to do tonight for the Braves?
Well, he'll make a change. Deion Sanders is going to bat 2nd. He'll be at the top of that Braves lineup, and I think that's equally important for Atlanta to get the running game going. David Cone, very easy to steal against.
Here in Atlanta, they kind of play a nightly game here. Pick tonight's hero. It's your turn.
Well, it's Cabrera, Berryhill. I guess it would be logical if you're a Braves fan to assume that with Deion Sanders in the lineup, he'd be tonight's hero. That's why he's there.
Deion is batting .600 against David Cone. In fact, earlier this year, Deion took David Cone downtown.
That ball is well hit. That ball is gone. Number 7 for Deion.
I usually have pretty good success against Cone, and I hope to continue success.
Yeah. A little nervous? Feel good about this?
No,
well, this is your little prime time for you, huh?
There's nothing to be nervous about. I want to go out there and help these guys win.
Been a lot of talk about Deion Sanders in the last couple of weeks. How good is Deion as a baseball player?
Well, the progress he's made in the last 4 years is amazing as a hitter, and the best is still ahead for Deion. If he applies himself, I think he could be a terrific baseball player.
Kitty, last night's game could have gone either way, but for one swing of Berryhill's bat. Jack Morris appeared to be cruising, and then suddenly they were hitting him. What happened to Jack?
Well, not making an excuse, but Jack Morris was having difficulty feeling the ball. It was a cool night. In fact, it's going to be a lot colder tonight. And with that fork ball, it was slipping out of his hand from time to time. That one never got below the belt. It was really the only bad pitch he made the entire night. And on the other hand, Tom Glavine, from the start of the game, it was obvious that it was going to be a pitcher's strike zone. Jerry Crawford was very consistent, anything low and away, and Glavine was able to pitch to that, be consistent, and get a lot of ground ball outs.
54 degrees tonight, a little cool tonight. The aces of the Atlanta staff, I found out on Thursday, for them the pressure of pitching in a World Series is now par for the course. Speaking of which, I joined them for their appointed rounds as they tried to work their way into the swing of things. Tonight's starter, John Smoltz, is a big hitter in terms of golf, which he says helps him relax.
Oh, that's a birdie from there.
Who would win, I wonder?
The Blue Jays or the Braves in a golf tournament? You know if those guys can play golf?
I wouldn't say they get a chance to play too much being too cold up there, so I'd like our chance.
Hey, you're ripping the city already. Start that already. It's 35 degrees in Toronto tonight where we're heading tomorrow. He hits the ball hard on the golf course.
I was with him one day when he outdrove Mark Calcavecchia, and in fact, he shot 2 under par that day in an exhibition match last spring in West Palm Beach.
Hit a little better than me, I'll tell you that. We come back, we'll relive David Cohn's worst nightmare, and we'll share John Smoltz's biggest pain in the neck. As Baseball 92 rolls on from Peachtree Plaza to Maple Leaf Gardens here on CBS. Arriving at a familiar place, Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. It was here 2 years ago that the then New York Mets starter got caught up in this bizarre scenario.
Breaking ball, grounder. Marshall lets Jeffries get it, tossed to Cone. He tags the bag, and they say safe. Watch the runner. He's not watching the runner. The runner scores. And Cone's still arguing. Here comes the second runner. The second runner scores. I believe I just saw that.
Far from his mind right now, I'm sure, as you look at a live picture of David Cone getting ready to start in his first World Series game. Had 261 strikeouts, leading the majors for the 3rd consecutive year. Career record against Atlanta, 9-3. The 2.68 ERA. By the way, that game we talked about, that's the only game he's ever lost here. He's 4-1 here. As he warms up tonight, we asked his manager, Cito Gaston, if Cone has the advantage knowing the Braves hitters, or is it the other way around?
If there's any advantage at all, it's probably for them because they have seen him before. Where, you know, we haven't seen this kid, the Night Smokes. We haven't seen him at all. And in fact, we haven't seen any of their pitchers. Right. So they have seen Jack Morris before, which, you know, they seen him last night. And tonight they'll see David Cone. But if David's on, it doesn't matter who sees him.
David Cone just right out behind us here. Kitty, what do you think of this big gun?
Well, he short-circuited a little bit in that game against Atlanta. He's got better control of his emotions right now and also better control of his pitches. A great slider against right-hand hitters. I don't care how many times you hit against him. If he has his stuff together, one of the toughest pitchers in baseball to hit. A great split-finger fastball that he uses against lefties. He has not had a good one in his last 2 starts. He better have one tonight with 4 left-hand hitters in Atlanta's lineup.
Indeed. John Smoltz is back, and well, so is his back. We always talk about those adjustments pitchers have to make. Well, on game days and sometimes in between, John Smoltz is no exception. I felt that here as Smoltz gets loose tonight. A reminder that he's pitching on 3 days rest. He's been effective in this situation before, and I asked him about it earlier tonight.
Mentally, I enjoy pitching these last 3 times out. I think the only thing I can say is it's less time to prepare and more time to get the ball and do what I enjoy doing, and that's pitching.
Got to know him a little bit. A lot of confidence in that kid.
Yeah, I like his attitude. It's laughable, this 3 days rest thing. You'll have a little less power, much better control. And of course, John Smoltz has been very effective on short rest in postseason play. Braves hope he is tonight. Great assortment of pitches. He has added a split finger since in the last couple of years.
Live picture of him there warming up before Game 2 of the World Series. You know, the beauty of this game is that every play stirs memories of the past. And as we take one last look at the reaction to Damon Berryhill's big surprise, we're reminded of the great Yogiism. It's like deja vu all over again. And as he left the ballpark this morning, it must have been deja vu for another backup catcher who had his moment 20 years ago.
2 down. George Hendrick at first, top of the second. There's a long blast to deep left. That one is going, and it is gone.
Gene Tenace in his first World Series game actually lashed 2 home runs for Oakland Swingin' A's. As baseball irony would have it, he's now a Toronto coach.
What happened last night, you know, there's a lot of similarities with Berryhill coming in 20 years later. I hope he doesn't stay as hot as I did.
Fury Tenace.
Boy, talk about hot. The Reds didn't know a lot about him. They gave him a lot of inside fastballs. He hit 4 home runs in that series. He was on the world champion A's in 72, the world champion Cardinals at 82, and he's hoping he gets a ring here in the 90s with the Blue Jays in 92.
Tenace, anybody? Sorry, it's a bad joke. Baseball 92 will continue live from Hotlanta in a moment. Sorry about that. Stay with us. Back live at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium as the pitchers are getting ready for tonight's contest. And Kitty, what's going through their minds right now?
Well, the butterflies and the cotton mouth, the dry mouth, that's all back in the clubhouse. And through John Smoltz's mind right now, I think, get a little feel of the ball. You'll see these guys blowing on their hand tonight. It's a little chilly. I think the early part of the warm-up, you get a feel of the ball, get the arm loose, and then about the last 5 minutes, he's heating it up right now, you kind of go through the other team's lineup on an imaginary at-bat, low and away, high and tight, work all your pitches in.
The Braves fans are hoping it will be another raining night in Georgia. We'll be back to sing "Oh Canada" and the Star-Spangled Banner with you after a word from your local station. The fans here are getting ready for Game 2 of the World Series. Stay with us. Welcome back, and time now to honor America and to honor Canada. And once again, to do the honors of introducing tonight's guest artists, here is public address announcer Marshall Mann.
Now to honor Canada, join in the singing of the Canadian anthem, which will be performed tonight by Capitol Platinum recording artist and native of Canada, Tom Cochrane, whose hit "Life is a Highway" topped the charts this summer.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all our sons command. With glowing hearts we see the rights, the true north strong and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God, keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
And now to honor America. Join in the singing of our national anthem, which will be performed by Columbia recording artist Peabo Bryson.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, the broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet land of the free and the home of the
brave. We liked it too. On deck, Game 2 of the 1992 World Series. Stay with us. Well, the stage is set now for the second act of the Fall Classic. The scenario couldn't be any greater. Green grass, red Georgia clay, and clear skies. The players are among the most talented on the continent, and all that remains is to introduce the men who will narrate this drama as it unfolds tonight. Sean McDonough and Tim McCarver. And gentlemen, the two sweetest words in anybody's vocabulary: play ball.
Thank you, Pat. Those are sweet words indeed. And in recent World Series play, the sweetest words of all have been home field. With Atlanta's victory last night, the home team has now won 25 of the last 31 World Series games, including the last 8 in a row. So tonight, the Toronto Blue Jays look to end that streak and pull even in this series as they send David Cone out to the mound to make his first ever World Series appearance against John Smoltz.
It is clearly the story tonight, a marvelous matchup of two power pitchers. David Cone leading the major leagues in strikeouts for the third consecutive year, and John Smoltz leading the National League in strikeouts with 215. It's interesting that both pitchers are remarkably similar. They throw very hard, high fastballs, devastating sliders, as Jim Kaat said earlier, and both with very, very good splitters. So look for the hitters to lay off of those pitches. The big difference is in David Cone's inability to hold runners close. He gave up more stolen bases than any other pitcher in the big leagues this year.
Each team with a significant lineup change tonight. For the Atlanta Braves, Deion Sanders gets the start in left field. He's starting for just the third time in the last 42 Atlanta games.
And even though Bobby Cox is making only one defensive change, he's making really two offensive changes because Jeff Blauser, who normally hits second, moves into the sixth hole for Deion Sanders. Ron Gann, incidentally, 0 for his last 14, and Jeff Blauser 0 for 11. I think it's the right move to make.
And for Toronto tonight, John Olerud is in the lineup at first base.
And he's their normal first baseman. Joe Carter moves to left field. I do think, however, that the Atlanta Braves will continue to try to take advantage of the throwing arm of Dave Winfield. He's only been out there on defense 26 times this year.
Candy Maldonado, the odd man out for Toronto tonight. He's not an odd man, and he's in our lineup. Here's Jim Kaat.
Well, I think one of the factors tonight is really going to be the weather. We talked about how cool it was last night. You're going to see the pitchers blowing on that hand, trying to get some moisture there to grip the ball, and not only gripping the ball, but I think the winds are a little stronger tonight, and if they get a few pitches up, we may even see some more home runs tonight. We saw a couple last night that decided the game, even against a couple of great pitchers like Cone and Smoltz. Sean?
Thank you, Kitty. As you might expect, another sellout crowd of better than 51,000 on hand at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, ready for Game 2 of the 1992 World Series. The Braves lead 1-0. The starting lineup tonight for the Toronto Blue Jays. Devon White leads off in center field. Roberto Alomar is the second baseman. Batting third, and in left field tonight, Joe Carter. The cleanup hitter, right fielder Dave Winfield. John Olerud at first base, batting fifth. Batting sixth, the third baseman, Kelly Gruber. Pat Borders is behind the plate, hitting seventh. The shortstop, Manuel Lee, bats eighth. And batting ninth, the pitcher, David Cone. And the fans back on their feet as the Atlanta Braves take the field.
That will allow us to show you the defense for the Atlanta Braves. Deion Sanders in left field. Otis Nixon in center field. So a lot of speed in the outfield with David Justice in right. The third baseman this evening will be last year's most valuable player in the National League, Terry Pendleton. Jeff Blauser, the shortstop. Mark Lemke, whom Bobby Cox says turns the double play equally as well as Bill Mazeroski. How about that for company? Sid Bream, the first baseman, and last night's hero, Damon Berryhill, behind the plate. John Smoltz 4-0 in postseason, 2-0 this year in the league championship series. And while he did not have a decision last year in the World Series against Minnesota, he did pitch very well, working 2 games, 14 1/3 innings, and giving up only 2 runs, striking out 11, and walking only 1.
Smoltz with a lot of experience in big game situations, despite the fact that he is just 25 years old. In each of the last 7 World Series, the team that has won Game 1 has also won Game 2. So that recent history is on the side of the Atlanta Braves tonight as well. We mentioned John Smoltz's experience in big game situations, and prior to this start, we asked him about that.
I've always believed as a kid that these are the games that I've actually loved to pitch in. I don't look at them as total pressure situations, not life or death. I just enjoy it, and I'm fulfilling a kid's dream. And I think that approach really helps me relax and go out and do the things that I'm capable of.
And he's capable of quite a bit, as the numbers indicate. He was the most valuable player in the LCS against Pittsburgh. And by winning that award, he earned himself a $50,000 bonus as an incentive clause in his contract. The umpires working the ball game tonight. Behind the plate, Mike Riley of the American League, Joe West from the National League at first base. The American League's Dan Morrison at second, Bob Davidson at third, John Shulock in left field, and Jerry Crawford, last night's home plate umpire, has the right field line. For Mike Riley, this is his 2nd World Series appearance. He's been a major league umpire for 15 years.
In the last game of last year's American League Championship Series, Mike Riley ran Cito Gaston. We talked to Cito about it before. He said that was done last year, and no problem with Mike Riley, a very fair umpire and a good umpire. And he'll be behind the plate tonight.
And for the casual baseball fan, when you say he ran Cito Gaston, you don't mean that he put him through laps in the outfield before or after the game.
Nor used him as a pinch runner.
That's right.
No.
You mean that he ejected him from
correct.
the ball game. That was in the 2nd inning of the game of which you were speaking. We're arguing balls and strikes. The next 3 games in this series will be played at the Sky Dome in Toronto. Game 3 comes your way Tuesday night with the first pitch at 8:29. Also night games on Wednesday and Thursday. If games 6 and 7 are necessary, they would be played back here in Atlanta. Smoltz is ready, and the crowd is ready as well. And the first batter of game 2 is Devon White. He was 0 for 4 last night after a .348 batting average in the American League Championship Series. Big part of Tom Glavine's success last night was keeping the top 2 hitters in the Toronto batting order off the bases. White and Alomar went a combined 0 for 8. First pitch of game 2, a fastball in for strike 1.
As a matter of fact, White nor Alomar got a ball out of the infield last night.
And the breaking ball swung on and missed. Smoltz quickly ahead 0-2. This time he laid off the breaking ball. 1 ball and 2 strikes. This is what we were talking about in last night's game against Tom Glavine. Devon White 0 for 4. Roberto Alomar 0 for 4. That's especially noteworthy because of the kind of production that Toronto has had from White and Alomar in its 11 championship series games over the last 2 years. They're off to a similar start tonight as White struck out on the pitch high and tight.
The breaking ball again to Devon White gets him. It's not a good breaking ball either. It stays up in the strike zone. A high curveball waved at by White.
Now Roberto Alomar. Bounce back to the mound on the hop, and Smoltz throws him out. saw the flags in the hat of the fan. This series has taken on somewhat nationalistic tones. Yesterday, the headline on the special section in the Atlanta newspaper that focused exclusively on the World Series was, "This is our game." Joe Carter, the batter. He provided the Blue Jays with their only run last night with a home run in the 4th inning off Tom Glavine. Breaking ball, swung on and missed for strike 1.
The Braves right-handed pitchers will pitch Joe Carter and Dave Winfield the same way. They'll try to get him out inside, even though that pitch was away. Not all pitchers get hitters out the same way. Last night, Joe Carter hit a home run off Tommy Glavine trying to come inside to him. John Smoltz with various ways to get a hitter out,
including the strikeout with the breaking ball. 1, 2, 3 go the Blue Jays. 2 strikeouts in the inning for John Smoltz. Otis Nixon leads off for the Atlanta Braves tonight. Deion Sanders gets his first postseason start in left field. Terry Pendleton, the third baseman, batting third. The cleanup hitter, right fielder David Justice. Sid Bream batting 5th at first base. The shortstop, Jeff Blauser, batting 6th tonight. Damon Berryhill, last night's hero, is catching and batting 7th. Mark Lemke, the second baseman, hits 8th, and batting 9th, the pitcher, John Smoltz.
The defense for the Toronto Blue Jays. Joe Carter will play left field for the 7th time this year. Devon White, an excellent center fielder, and Dave Winfield, primarily a designated hitter this year, is in right field. Kelly Gruber, a terrific third baseman. Manny Lee, a good shortstop. Roberto Alomar, tremendous range on the right side. John Olerud is the first baseman, and Pat Borders behind the plate. We mentioned how many ways John Smoltz had to get you out, and David Cone is similar. Fastball that he throws upstairs, it's got a little tailing motion to it. John Smoltz is a cross-seamer. His has a tendency to rise. Cone's a tendency to tail. But David Cone, along with Smoltz, has a good slider, probably his best pitch at this time. And as Jim Cott said earlier in our pregame, Cone had a tough time getting the split finger fastball over in the LCS.
Otis Nixon digs in. No scores. The Braves come up for the first time in game 2. Otis started the first inning last night with a single through the middle on the first pitch thrown by Jack Morris. He went 1 for 3. '29-year-old David Cone from Kansas City, Missouri, ready to throw his first ever pitch in World Series play. And it's a strike as Nixon was taking all the way.
David Cone from Kansas City facing Otis Nixon from Evergreen, North Carolina. Town of, Otis says it's 305 people, but we checked today, and there are 850 people there. It's so small, Charles Perrault doesn't even know where it is.
And apparently it's growing very quickly from 300 to 800
right.
in just a couple of hours. 0-2 the count on Nixon. Fastball just inside. David Wells, one of the Cone heads in the Toronto dugout. Slap to left field, charging hard Carter to make the catch. I think the fact that David Wells was wearing the Cone head is indicative of the fact that David Cone quickly came to be well received by his new teammates. He's a very likable guy and really fit in with relative ease.
Traded for 2 organizational players on August 27th. And it's baseball's version of the Lend-Lease plan. Even though Toronto has first dibs on Cone after the season, he will, in all probability, declare free agency.
Deion Sanders takes his first World Series pitch ever to deep right field. Winfield to the wall to make the catch. Sanders nearly took Cone out of the ballpark. Deion 6 for 10 lifetime prior to that at bat against David Cone.
This is a slider off the bat of Sanders. It appeared he was looking for the breaking ball and just misses a home run. Winfield against the wall. Wow.
And each of the two outfielders has been tested early. Carter had to make a running catch, and Winfield to the wall to make the play on Sanders. Sanders owns the best career batting average of any major leaguer against David Cone. So 2 down in the bottom of the first, no score in the ball game, and 1 ball to count on Terry Pendleton.
You may have noticed Deion Sanders was limping. He has had a broken bone in his left foot since March. It has not healed properly, and in all probability won't, because from baseball he'll go right back into football and have about a month off, and then spring training starts next year.
Three balls and no strikes on Pendleton, whose woes in the league championship series carried over into the World Series last night when Terry went 0 for 4 in game 1. And Cone's in with his first strike to Pendleton, who tied for the National League lead in hits during the regular season with Andy Van Slyke of Pittsburgh. They each had 199. Full count now. If Pendleton can keep the inning alive, David Justice would bat next. We saw the numbers for Cone against the Braves, 9-3 lifetime, but as he pointed out, a lot of pitchers ran up impressive records against Atlanta in 1987 and 88. That's when most of David's damage was done. Lee has to hurry. On the move, he throws him out by a running step. Each side goes in order in the first. After 1 inning in game 2, there is no score.
Major League Baseball are donating $5,000 to build and renovate youth baseball fields all across America.
No score after 1 inning in game 2 of the 1992 World Series. Each team went in order in the first. And John Smoltz is through what he thinks is the most difficult part of the night for himself. He says ordinarily he's too pumped up in the first inning. That cost him in game 7 of the LCS when the Pirates scored a run that almost stood up to be the game-winning run. Dave Winfield takes a fastball for strike 1. He was 1 for 3 last night with an infield hit. Smoltz struck out 2 in the first inning. Breaking ball in the dirt. A ball and a strike on Winfield. He will be followed by John Olerud and Kelly Gruber.
All right, John.
Winfield played in last night's game at 41 years, 14 days old. The oldest player to participate in the World Series game since the Twins' Joe Niekro pitched in 1987 in game 4 at the age of 43.
Dave Winfield was a freshman at the University of Minnesota when John Smoltz was born.
And an outstanding basketball player as a Gopher was Winfield, in addition to his baseball exploits. Now the 2-2 pitch. Struck him out with the breaking ball. 4 men have come to the plate for Toronto against John Smoltz, and 3 of them have struck out.
And we talked about the Braves scouting report saying their right-handers will try to pitch both Carter and Winfield inside. If you have a breaking ball like that, I don't care if a guy likes the ball away or not. They're not going to hit it. Winfield is vulnerable inside, but all good hitters are vulnerable inside because they go into the ball. The same with Joe Carter.
John Olerud took a ball low and in. He's up for the first time in this World Series. He sat out last night as Joe Carter played first base and Candy Maldonado was in left field. Of course, the maneuvering won't be a problem for Cito Gaston when the series shifts to Toronto for Game 3, and the DH is employed in the American League home ballpark.
This is the 20th birthday of the designated hitter.
Hard to believe, isn't it?
It really is. From 1973 to 1975, no designated hitter was used in the World Series. From 76 through 85, it was used on even-numbered years. And from 1986 on, only in the American League parks.
Three balls and a strike on John Olerud. With one out and the base is empty. In the top of the second, there is no score. Jack Morris, the losing pitcher last night for Toronto. His first ever World Series loss. Full count now.
That's an indication of how hard both pitchers are throwing on 2-3-1 counts. We have seen balls foul back the other way. That's when the hitter is looking for the fastball and still fouls it back the other way. Smoltz and Cone both throwing awfully hard.
And the breaking ball freezes Olerud. So after the 92-mile-per-hour fastball, Olerud caught looking at the breaking ball. 5 in a row retired by Smoltz to start the ball game. 4 of them via the strikeout.
Olerud down on strikes after fouling back that fastball. Come back with that pitch. That's just not fair.
2 away for Kelly Gruber, who fouled the first pitch back to the backstop. Gruber 0 for 3 last night and now 0 for his last 18 in this postseason. An overthrow and a count of 1 ball and 1 strike. The all-time record for consecutive hitless at-bats in a single postseason is 22. Shared by Dal Maxville in the '68 World Series and Dave Winfield in the postseason in 1981. 2 balls and a strike on Gruber.
Dave Winfield's was a carryover from the League Championship Series to the World Series.
Two balls and 2 strikes. Well, Gruber's been bothered a lot by injuries this year, as we mentioned last night, and when he returned to action late in the season, manager Cito Gaston told him, "I really don't care how much you hit. We don't need you to with our lineup. I want you to play great defensive third base." And Cito Gaston thinks Kelly is the best defensive third baseman in the game today.
That's what he told us before the game this evening.
Trying to strike out the side. He does with the breaking ball again. 6 Blue Jays have come to the plate against Smoltz. 5 of them have fanned after an inning and a half. No score. 2 is picking up right where Game 1 left off. Last night, the 2 teams combined for just 8 hits, the fewest combined in a World Series game since October 18th of 1972. Game 3 that year when Cincinnati and Oakland combined for just 7 hits in a 1-0 Reds win. David Justice begins the bottom of the second. There's not been a base runner in the ball game through an inning and a half. Cone's first pitch of the second is low. Ball 1 on Justice, who went 0 for 2 last night but walked a couple of times. Justice, Bream, and Blauser coming up. That's low again. 2 balls and no strikes.
We mentioned last night that Tommy Glavine was going to be married on November 7th. Well, David Justice is engaged to Halle Berry, the actress. Played in Eddie Murphy's Boomerang.
David appeared on a soap opera earlier this year.
David Justice, not David Cone.
David Cone more concerned with blazing fastballs at the moment. The last one at 92. That ball low and away. 3 balls and a strike. And that's ball 4. David Justice is the first base runner of the night. He's been very patient in the postseason. Justice walked 6 times in 7 games against Pittsburgh. Walked twice last night. And he's on by the walk again tonight. Sid Bream, in case you couldn't tell. Ball outside to Bream, who went 1 for 3 last night with a single. And he also walked, and strikeouts have already been a factor tonight, but Sid Bream is not fanned yet in this 1992 postseason.
That's in 8 games. He has not struck out. He was the only one in league championship play, as a matter of fact, on either team of the regulars that did not strike out at least once. David Cone getting into some trouble here, falling behind the big guys. Walking 1 and now 1-0 to Bream.
Pulled the string. 1 ball and 1 strike on Sid Bream.
One of the reasons that David Cone is so easy to run against is that not only is he a power pitcher, but he has a high leg kick and he swings his leg out. 49 steals, the most in the major leagues this year against David Cone.
Justice not much of a threat to run. He only stole 2 bases during the regular season. And Cone helps to negate the damage done by the stolen bases because he strikes out so many hitters. 2-1 on Bream. No score. We're in the bottom of the 2nd. Bream at the plate with nobody out and Justice at first. Jeff Blauser is on deck. The 2-1 pitch. Well hit to center. Devon White sprinting back toward the track, and he is there to make the catch. Justice went all the way to second. The throw comes to first. Not in time. And that'll bring up Jeff Blauser. Throughout the postseason, he has been the number 2 hitter in the Atlanta lineup. Tonight he's batting 6th. He was 0 for 4 last night. And now just 2 for his last 23.
Over that 0 for 11 span, he hasn't gotten the ball out of the infield either.
Interesting in speaking with Bobby Cox before the game tonight about the strategy employed by the Braves in the first inning when Otis Nixon was at second base with nobody out. Blauser tried to bunt on a 3-1 pitch.
Bobby said that he gives Blauser the option a lot of times to bunt on his own, to either push it, and says he is among the best in the league at doing so. He tried to push it last night but popped it up to first base. and the Braves lost a scoring opportunity in their half of the first inning.
Cox says Blauser's among the best the Braves have at either bunting to the right side or slapping the ball with a swing to the right side. The runner takes off. The pitch is strike. The throw goes into center field. Justice will remain at second. The play was backed up by Devon White. Borders' throw to the right field side of the bag. It missed Roberto Alomar.
Borders was late in releasing this ball. I don't know whether he could not get the ball out of his glove or that he didn't see Justice running. I don't think he got to his feet quickly enough. He was off balance when he made the catch of the slider. And even though the hit and run was on, Blauser didn't make contact, so a stolen base for David Justice.
And now a runner in scoring position with one out. In the second, no score in the game. And the count is a ball and a strike on Blauser, with Damon Berryhill on deck. Fastball up and in. 2-1.
We mentioned last night the difficulty that Pat Borders, the catcher, has in catching this Toronto Blue Jays pitching staff. Jack Morris, very difficult. David Cone, Juan Guzman. Cone might be the toughest.
Plenty on that one. 2-2. The count on Blauser. The toughest because he has so many pitches in his arsenal and can throw them all over the place.
Such a variety of pitches, and to be effective, the splitter must be down. You get a lot of wild pitches like that, but you also get a lot of balls that you can't be in a position to throw well with runners running. That's one of the reasons they steal so much on Cone. The catcher's not in good position to throw.
Slapped is short. Lee will try third and hits the runner. Justice safe at third. Blauser aboard at first.
Bad play. Bad play. With one out, with nobody out, you can understand it. With one out, that's your second out at third base. Go for the out at first base. Allow the runner to be at third. See, you're lining up right with the runner. Where's Kelly Gruber going to make the catch? He's got to stand outside the line. Watch Justice running outside the line, and the throw hits him right in the small of the back. And Toronto fortunate that Justice didn't score, but that throw should have been to first base.
Fourth error of the postseason for Manuel Lee. He only made 7 errors in the regular season in 128 games. Now last night's offensive star for the Braves, Damon Berryhill. Trying to break a scoreless tie in the second. Breaking ball high and away, ball 1. Berryhill with a 3-run homer in the 6th inning off Jack Morris, accounting for all 3 Atlanta runs in the Braves' 3-1 victory. It was his first ever postseason home run. Chopped foul toward the Atlanta dugout. 1 ball and 1 strike. As Jim Cott mentioned, a chillier night here at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. It's in the mid-50s at game time and heading down. Cone wants a new ball.
David Cone has induced only 1 double play grounder in his last 24 starts. That takes into consideration his time with the Mets and the Blue Jays.
Berryhill an easy man to double up if they can get a ground ball. They're not going to get a ground ball on that pitch. No chance for Berryhill to swing at it. 2 balls and a strike. The runner at third is David Justice. He walked and stole second, moved to third when Blauser reached on the fielder's choice. We've yet to have a hit in this ball game. The runner takes off from first. The pitch gets by Borders. Justice coming to the plate. And he is safe, and all the way to third goes Jeff Blauser. 1-0 Atlanta.
The splitter, we mentioned Cone and Borders and the possibility of the wild pitches. Cone had 12 this year. Not only does Justice score, but Jeff Blauser alertly goes to third without a play.
It's a stolen base credited to Blauser. He takes third on the wild pitch that brought Justice in from third. And manager Cito Gaston is at the mound discussing the situation with his battery and a couple of his infielders with the runner at third and 1 out and a count of 3-1 on Berryhill.
Whenever a catcher goes after a ball in the dirt with his glove first, then it usually gets by him. You can't feel that ball like a first baseman or an infielder. A catcher's mitt's not designed to do that. So you have to use your body. You try to block it with the chest protector. Borders didn't do that. The ball skipping over his glove, and Blauser going all the way around the third base.
The Toronto infield is in. The 3-1 pitch to Berryhill. Caught on and missed for strike 2. Berryhill will be followed by Mark Lemke. 1 run for Atlanta without a hit. Now the payoff pitch. Ball 4. Second walk in the inning thrown by Cone. Now Mark Lemke. 1 for 3 last night to keep his postseason batting average at .333. The infield back at double play depth now. And runners at the corners and 1 out. In the second inning, the Braves lead 1-0. Slap to short. Lee, nice play to his left. Double play ends the inning. And the Braves get just 1. After 2 innings, David Cone and the Blue Jays trail 1-0.
CBS Sports coverage.
Welcome back to Atlanta Fulton County Stadium for Game 2 of the World Series. Atlanta leads 1-0 and leads tonight 1-0 as the Blue Jays bat in the third inning with the bottom third of their order coming up against John Smoltz. Fastball right down Peachtree Street for 1 strike on Borders. It was 2 for 3 last night. He had half of the Blue Jays hits off Tom Glavine.
But which Peachtree Street? There are about 17 of them.
Peachtree everything in this town.
Yeah, John Smoltz is moving the ball around tonight.
Up and down all of the Peachtree streets. He'll face Borders, Lee, and Cone. He stand 5 of the first 6. Well, 1-2. Smoltz has struck out the last 4 Blue Jay hitters consecutively. Chopped down to third. A long throw for Pendleton. And it's on the money. 1 out in the third inning. Major League Baseball wishes to apologize to the people of Canada and to all baseball fans for the unintentional improper display of the Canadian flag during the national anthem. Prior to the start of tonight's World Series game, the color guard inadvertently displayed the flag upside down. It was totally unintentional, and Major League Baseball apologizes for it. Manuel Lee at the plate with 1 strike. John Smoltz roaring through the first 2 and a third innings and pitching with a 1-0 lead. Lee was 0 for 3 last night. Fastball backs him off the plate. It was inside, 1-1. Breaking ball. Did he check his swing? No, says third base umpire Bob Davidson.
Lee appeared to go too far. Yeah, easily.
Well hit. Right center field. Justice on the run. And just in front of the warning track, he makes the catch. We hope you'll join us Tuesday night for Game 3 of the World Series, live from Toronto Sky Dome. Steve Avery is scheduled to oppose Juan Guzman. And our coverage begins at 8 p.m. Eastern Time here on CBS. David Cone, accustomed to hitting during his time with the New York Mets. He's a career 154 hitter. This year with New York, he hit just .092, going 6 for 65. Smoltz working quickly. And who'd have thunk it? The first hit of the night comes from David Cone, the pitcher. A slap base hit through the left side of the infield.
That is only the third hit by pitchers, by American League pitchers, since the designated hitter originated back in 1973. Pitchers now are 3 for 109 and 2 for their last 84. Mike Moore had a double back in 1989. Mike pitching for the Oakland Athletics. And Tim Stoddard had a single for the Baltimore Orioles in the 1979 League Championship Series.
Now Devon White lines one to right. A great catch by Justice. The defensive play of the World Series to date made by David Justice in right field.
What a play by Justice. Right off the turf.
We'll return to Atlanta Fulton County Stadium after this word from your local station. Whale of a View comes to us from Airship Shamu. The blimp represents SeaWorld parks in Florida, California, Ohio, and Texas. And based on that clever play on words, I presume that they have hired you, Mr. McCarver, to write their blimp copy for them.
Reprise, huh?
Bottom of the third, and John Smoltz, the hitter. Atlanta leads 1-0.
And like David Cone, he is a hitter.
He drove in a run in the league championship series against Pittsburgh. Fastball missed for ball 1. Cito Gaston told us before the game that David Cone convinced him that he was a good hitter. Cone told Gaston he had 18 hits in 1989. Sure enough, that did lead all National League pitchers that year. Smoltz hit 160 during the regular season. He did hit a home run.
And that night he drove in the run in Pittsburgh, Game 4. He had 2 hits and a stolen base in that game. That has never been done by a pitcher in league championship play.
He was a bit overmatched on that fastball. 2-2. He'll be followed by Nixon and Sanders. Strike 3. That's the first strikeout of the night for the Major League strikeout leader in 1992, David Cone. And the last one clocked at 90 miles per hour. Otis Nixon was out on a fly ball to left field as he led off the Atlanta first. Now to play, 1 strike on Nixon with Otis up there. They're in tight at the corners for Toronto. Now to play again, 0-2.
We talked last night of it when Todd Stottlemyre came in the game, only the second father-son tandem to pitch in World Series play. The other, Jim Bagby, well, Otis Nixon is playing in this World Series, and his brother, Donnell Nixon, played for the San Francisco Giants back in 1989. Of course, the World Series that year interrupted by the horrible earthquake that hit the Bay Area.
1-2 now. We're in the bottom of the third. Atlanta leads 1-0. Despite the fact that the Braves do not have a hit to this point off David Cone. Otis doesn't have one in his career off Cone. Still 1-2. I'm Sean McDonough along with Tim McCarver, Jim Cott, and Pat O'Brien. Delighted to have you with us from Atlanta Fulton County Stadium for Game 2 of the 1992 World Series.
Mentioned that Nixon does not have a hit against Cone, and he doesn't. You go up and down the Braves lineup, and none of the Braves through their careers have hit David Cone that well. The only Brave in the lineup tonight, as we mentioned earlier, that hits him very well, Deion Sanders, and the other 2 guys, Lonnie Smith and Jeff Treadway, aren't playing this evening.
John Smoltz trying to hide the fact perhaps that he's warming his hand. Camouflage hand warmer. In center field, Devon White takes the line drive. 2 down.
Yeah, that hand warmer looks like something you'd take to a duck blind, not to a dugout. Look at that. Why is it camouflage?
That's a question for Andy Rooney, I think. Well, it seems to be working, that's for sure, as Smoltz has been mowing down the Blue Jays through the first 3 innings. Cone has retired the first 2 in the bottom of the third. Deion Sanders hit a fly ball on the first pitch he saw in the first inning, a deep right field, and Dave Winfield handled it up against the wall. Sanders now 0 for 6 with 3 strikeouts in the postseason. 2-0 the count. Deion obviously did not play for the Atlanta Falcons today, and they could have used him. They were trounced out at San Francisco by the 49ers, 56-17. 3-0.
You saw those numbers, 6 for 11, and another reason that Bobby Cox says that Sanders is in the game tonight, he also hit David Cone very well in spring training. The New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves train very close together. The Mets in Port St. Lucie, Florida, and Atlanta in West Palm Beach. So they play each other often, and Sanders really zeroing in on David Cone, and that's another reason that he's playing tonight.
He has walked on 4 pitches, and Cone will have to keep an eye on him. This matchup favors Sanders if he tries to steal with his 26 stolen bases during the year, and Cone's difficulty in holding runners close. Terry Pendleton stands in. He chopped to short his first time up. 0 for 5 now in the World Series is Pendleton. One nothing Atlanta in the bottom of the third. Sanders at first with 2 outs. First pitch to Pendleton is the 5th straight ball thrown by Cone.
Walking batters is only one way of being wild. A worse way is when you coax a ball back in the strike zone. You don't throw it. You just try to throw a strike. Then all of a sudden, boom, a guy hits a home run off a pitch like that. So a walk not only puts a guy on first base, but if you fall behind a guy like Terry Pendleton, he can hurt you with the long ball because you're really not throwing the fastball like you normally would throw it. It's one thing you try to guard against.
Sanders on the move. Borders won't try the throw. He couldn't get it out of his glove on the first attempt. He was also handicapped by the swing of Pendleton, and Sanders has the stolen base, the third of the night already for the Braves.
With 2 outs and a runner on first that is running, it is not considered a hit and run play. Sanders got a good jump. He decides to steal it, and Terry Pendleton decides to swing. So anytime a batter swings with the runner running, it's not always a hit and run play.
And Galen Cisco, the Toronto pitching coach, is at the mound. Deion Sanders is not the only two-sport athlete in the park tonight. Galen Cisco, many years a major league pitcher, was also a football standout at Ohio State. As a matter of fact, he was a captain of the Ohio State football team in the late 50s to beat Oregon in the Rose Bowl as a linebacker. If you're wondering, the World Series record for stolen bases in a game by one team is 5, shared by 4 teams. The last to do it, the 1987 Cardinals. So with the stolen base by Sanders, the Braves have 3 already. We're only in the 3rd inning.
3 stolen bases and no hits.
And 1 run in, they lead 1-0. Pendleton, the best in the majors this year with runners in scoring position. He hit .387. And he's ahead in the count, 2 balls and a strike. Three and 1. Pendleton will be followed by David Justice. The 3-1 from Cone is a strike, even though it was handled awkwardly by Pat Borders.
When he knows it's coming and still has a tough time with it, that denotes good movement on the fastball by David Cone.
Deion Sanders at second base with 2 outs. In the 3rd, 1-0 Atlanta, and the payoff pitch upcoming to Terry Pendleton. The first Cone steps off and looks Deion back to second. Now boos. Neither Manuel Lee nor Roberto Alomar was anywhere near second base. Now the 3-2 pitch. Bounced up the middle. Alomar, great diving stop to keep it in the infield. Roberto Alomar, the Gold Glove winner at second base, saved a run for Toronto by knocking that one down and keeping it in the infield.
Infielders are reminded with a runner at second base and 2 outs, if you can't make a play, keep it in the infield. And that's what Alomar does on this sparkling diving catch. And watch his reactions trying to throw behind Sanders at third base. Boy, a beautiful play by Alomar to possibly save a run, depending on what Justice does.
Now Justice at the plate. He walked and scored the Atlanta run last inning. It's a hit for Pendleton, the first Atlanta hit of the night. They have the shift on again in the infield for the Blue Jays. 3 infielders on the right side. As Justice takes a ball low and in. Pat Borders on his way to the mound. Apparently they're getting some help from the dugout. You saw the inquisitive look on the face of Borders as he eyed the Toronto dugout on his way to the mound.
It's not, they're not talking now about pitching to David Justice. They're talking about when and if Terry Pendleton runs, what to do with the throw. Does he throw through? Does he throw to an infielder in front of the bag? Do they throw to try to get Terry Pendleton? Pendleton, on the other hand, talking to Pat Corrales, the first base coach, to see if he's running. I don't think they'll be running here unless the count becomes unfavorable for David Justice.
The count is 1-0 at the moment. Pendleton not running on this pitch, off speed, and Justice was out in front of it. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Now, if it goes to 1 ball and 2 strikes, you can look for Pendleton to run. Then the count's in favor of the pitcher, and you're liable to get a throw through if the pitch is a ball, and Sanders could score from third base on the throw to second.
He had a glimpse of Gene Tennis in the Toronto dugout. He calls the pitch outs. That's a high fly ball along the right field line. Winfield in the corner makes the catch in fair territory, and the Braves strand 2. After 3 innings in game 2, it's Atlanta 1 and Toronto nothing.
This game summary is sponsored by AT&T.
In World Series play, the home team has won 8 in a row and 25 of 31. Tonight, the Braves, the home team, lead 1-0. John Smoltz struck out 5 of the first 6 batters that he faced. He's only allowed 1 hit through 3 innings, and the only run in this game scored on a wild pitch by David Cone that brought David Justice in from third in the second. So we go to the 4th, and Roberto Alomar leads off. He bounced back to the mound his first time up, and he made a defensive play that saved a run for the Toronto Blue Jays and kept it at 1-0.
The first pitch is the biggest pitch in a sequence, and John Smoltz has thrown a first pitch strike to 8 of the first 11 batters, but he's fallen behind Alomar. This at bat.
The 2-0 pitch looked pretty good, but called the ball. 3-0. Alomar to be followed by Joe Carter and Dave Winfield. The meat of the batting order coming up. The 3-0 offering is high, ball 4.
The last time Joe Carter came up, you may remember the pitch sequence since we were talking about that. It was a good morning, good afternoon, and good night with Joe. Breaking ball. Fastball. Breaking ball. Let's see what we see this time.
5 strikeouts for Smoltz. Those came within the first 6 batters of the night for Toronto, and he hasn't had one since. Tying run at first base with nobody out in the 4th inning for the Blue Jays. 1 strike on Carter. This is the first time that Carter has come to the plate in the World Series with either Alomar or White on base. They had been a combined 0 for 11 prior to the walk to Roberto Alomar, the first walk thrown by Smoltz tonight. Carter thought it was outside. Mike Riley says no, it wasn't. 0-2 on the left fielder.
Barry Hill sitting outside. Oh man, that's a tough pitch to Joe Carter. Joe thought it was outside. If it was on the plate, it was a perfect pitch.
Might have looked worse than it was because Barry Hill stabbed at it with his momentum, taking the pitch away from the plate. Robbie Alomar was a perfect 5 for 5 in stolen bases against the Oakland Athletics in the League Championship Series. Not running on this pitch, and it's 1 ball and 2 strikes now on Carter. And that success for Alomar stealing against Oakland came against a team Cito Gaston Field does as good a job holding runners on as a pitching staff as any in baseball, and Terry Steinbach certainly one of the best catchers in the game. Alomar bluffed towards second. And now that Berryhill can't find the ball and went after it rather lackadaisically, Alomar takes second. Had Berryhill fielded that, they might have had Alomar trapped between first and second.
And if they didn't trap him, then they at least hold him to first base. Watch the fake break by Alomar. There, he stops. The ball's in the dirt. Now watch Berryhill's reaction. Ball in the dirt, and he does not go after it quickly, so Alomar just goes to second base. That is a strange, strange form of a delayed steal. It was delayed because of the actions by Berryhill behind the plate. And I guess what Alomar was doing then, thinking about actually it's being scored a wild pitch since he had stopped. 17 wild pitches this season, the most in the National League, in the third straight season that John has led the league in wild pitches. But had Berryhill hopped on that ball, Alomar stays at first.
Another one that could have been a wild pitch, blocked by Berryhill out in front of the plate. It was scored a wild pitch because Alomar had turned to retreat toward first base. It was not his intention to steal until the ball eluded the grasp of Berryhill. So a runner in scoring position with nobody out. And the crowd coming back into it with the count 3-2 on Carter. Smoltz pitching in a jam for the first time tonight. Payoff pitch. Foul to the screen. Like David Cone, Joe Carter is from Kansas City. And a couple of times in the postseason, he has had his favorite ribs flown in from Kansas City at his own expense to feed the Blue Jay troops. He did it once in the LCS against Oakland, out in Oakland. He flew in some ribs on the workout day prior to game 1.
Nothing wrong with that, is it?
You'd like to have a teammate like that.
Yeah.
Joe Carter, one of the most respected men in the game. Really a good guy. Count still 3-2 on Carter. Oh for 1 because they haven't had many opportunities. They only had 4 hits last night. Only had 4 base runners last night. Popped up. Pendleton. 1 out. That'll bring up Dave Winfield, who once upon a time was a teammate of his manager, Cito Gaston.
When I started this game, he was a right fielder, and we roomed together at one time. Got to know him real well. Learned a lot from him, and he supported me. I mean, in different ways, mentally, emotionally. I just appreciate it.
They were fellow outfielders with the San Diego Padres in the early and mid 70s. For a while, they were roommates.
Cito Gaston still supporting Dave Winfield, happily.
And Winfield helping to get Gaston into the World Series as a manager for the first time. Little squibber out in front of the plate. Smoltz, not much of a throw, but he got it there in time to get Winfield. For the second out on the play, Roberto Alomar took third.
John didn't think he had a lot of time on this play. He thought he had to rush his throw, but he barehands the ball and throws out Winfield rather handily. Alomar, as you saw, going to third base.
He's there with 2 down in the 4th inning. The Braves lead 1-0.
And once again, with Alomar on third and 2 outs, the wild pitch becomes something of concern for Bobby Cox about John Smoltz. 1 this inning, 17 this year.
John Olerud, the batter. There is the pitch in the dirt. Here comes Alomar. Berryhill to Smoltz, and he is out at the plate. Rich Hacker, the third base coach, keeps Alomar away from Mike Riley, and Cito Gaston is hot.
We talked of the wild pitch. Berryhill allows it to trickle away from him. He gets it back to Smoltz, And we'll see if he's safe.
Yes,
he was
he is safe.
Easily. Not even close. One more look. Little shovel pass by Berryhill.
Well, he was safe the first 2 times and safe again.
Yep.
The hand gets the corner of the plate before the tag is on the arm of Alomar. Still 1-0 Atlanta. Back in a moment.
Where Alomar's hand slides across the plate before the tag. Right there. He is clearly safe. But the thing about Mike Riley's call, he did wait. And you could see right there that his hand is clearly on the plate. But he did wait, but we thought he made the wrong call.
Tough call. It was a close play, but Alomar should have been ruled safe.
What may have happened was John Smoltz's leg might have been blocked out the call and not given Mike Riley a clear shot. He's looking at that angle the same way we were from the third angle, but not as high up as our camera was.
And on the bench, John Smoltz has ice on his left wrist. That's his glove hand, the hand obviously that he used to apply the tag to Alomar. So it's on to the bottom of the 4th. 1-0 Atlanta, and a count of 1-2 on Sid Bream, who was out on a fly ball to center his first time up. Blauser on deck, then Berryhill against Cone. You mentioned just before it happened, as usual, Tim, the possibility of a wild pitch. One of the things the runners on third have to be aware of in this park is there is not a lot of room right behind home plate. That wasn't a factor in that particular play because the ball went sideways. But we've seen balls in this park hit the backstop and bounce a long way back to home plate. So the catcher has a very short distance to go to track it down. If the pitcher's to the plate quickly, they can make a play on a runner coming in from third.
And one of the key points, if you're a base runner against either of these pitchers, I think it's pretty clear by now that you have to be ready to advance on balls in the dirt.
A full count on the leadoff hitter here in the 4th inning, Sid Bream. And ball 4, didn't miss by much. Bream aboard to start the inning on the 4th walk thrown by David Cone. Cone had control trouble during the regular season. He averaged 4 walks per 9 innings. He had never averaged more than 3.1 walks per 9 in his 4 previous 200 inning seasons.
That is a huge difference. That's almost 1 walk a game difference.
Jeff Blauser. Ball 1, low and away. Blauser reached on the fielder's choice that set up the run in the 2nd. He came to the plate with David Justice at second base and 1 out and hit a chopper to short. Manuel Lee tried to make the play at third on Justice. He hit Justice with the throw. Both Blauser and Justice were safe, and Justice scored the game's only run on a wild pitch. Two and 0. John with the hand warmer on his right hand, and now it appears they're going to give further treatment to his left wrist. You can see the wrap, and they've already wrapped his left wrist. On the corner for a strike, 2-1. Blauser to be followed by Damon Berryhill. Breaking ball, low and away, 3-1.
I think Cone's trying to be too fine with all the hitters now. He's trying to make perfect pitches with everything he throws. The essence of pitching is to stay ahead and then expand the strike zone. David's expanding the strike zone too early in the count and falling behind a lot of Atlanta hitters.
Bream takes off on the 3-1 pitch. It's lined into right field. Bream does not stop around second. He's into third ahead of the throw. First and third and nobody out for Atlanta in the 4th inning. Jeff Blauser ends an 0-for-12 drought.
The count in the hitter's favor, and Sid Bream running, and watch him look toward home right there to make sure the ball is low enough. Now he looks to right field and decides to go to third and makes it easily.
Blauser with the second Atlanta hit of the ball game. Damon Berryhill drew a walk his first time up. The infield back at double play depth. The first pitch to Berryhill is a breaking ball low and in. Blauser back to first. Gene Tennis will call pitch-outs from the dugout for Pat Borders.
And he would be more reluctant to do that now because David Cone can't find the plate. He's too wild to be pitching out and putting him behind in the count. I don't think you'll see that until he gets his control.
Big rip by Berryhill, who had a 3-run homer last night. It was the Braves' first 3-run homer in a World Series game since 1958, when pitcher Lou Burdette belted one. Cone has thrown 71 pitches. Still nobody out here in the 4th inning. Todd Stottlemyre is throwing in the Toronto bullpen. Former Blue Jay manager Jimmy Williams, the third base coach. Jeff Blauser stole 5 bases during the regular season. He was also thrown out 5 times. Throw to third. Safe at third, and just barely is Sid Bream.
That is a planned play, even though had Berryhill hit it through the position, then Kelly Gruber would have been headed to the bag. But a very close play at third base. You don't see that play often with a left-handed batter up there unless you pitch out. If you're throwing it in the strike zone, the batter might hit it where the third baseman was. Not the case then.
Cone could certainly use a strikeout. Instead, it's a line drive to right. Winfield coming on to make the catch. Bream won't try it. He came about 15 feet down the line and then put the brakes on. So 1 out now, and still runners at first and third here in the 4th inning as Atlanta tries to build on a 1-0 lead.
We talked earlier about the Atlanta Braves possibly taking advantage of Dave Winfield's arm. Normally it's strong, but Dave Winfield playing only 26 games in right field this year, so his arm hasn't had a lot of action, but he did make a fine throw to hold Bream at third then. Bounced into a double play, ending the second. The Braves had a great chance in that inning to add to their 1-0 lead. A lot of things Bobby Cox can do here. Lemke is an excellent bunter. And with the pitcher up next, possibly to avoid the double play ball that would end the inning, we may see a squeeze here.
Cone stepped off. It might have been in part to see if Lemke gave any indication of a bunt. He did not. Ball one low.
If you're the runner at third base in a squeeze situation, the one thing you don't want to do is to leave too soon. If you leave too soon, the pitcher throws a pitch out and they nail you. Eddie Stanky used to say, in order to prevent that, take one step back toward third. That prevents you from leaving too soon.
Lemke with a slow ground ball. Alomar can't play it. Bream has scored. Blauser heads to third. 2-0 Atlanta. Mark Lemke now 9 for 19 in postseason play with runners in scoring position. That's a .474 batting average.
This ball is not hit hard, but under the diving Olerud's glove. And then off the heel of the glove of the diving Alomar. Excellent base running by Jeff Blauser. A lot of players would just stop at second, then pick up the play. Blauser kept going. And again, another squeeze situation here.
With the pitcher Smoltz at the plate. Gruber is in on the grass at third as Smoltz looked at a strike. He was called out on strikes in the third. Two runs, 3 hits for Atlanta. No runs, 1 hit for Toronto. Runners at the corners with 1 out in the fourth. The 0-1 to Smoltz. Again, he goes diving out of the way at a breaking ball low. 1 ball and 1 strike. Lemke back to first. He did not have a stolen base in the regular season. Certainly a lot going on in this situation. Signs being relayed on both sides. That's slapped to short. A one-hopper. Lee turns the double play with ease. So the Braves get 1, but it could have been worse for David Cone. After 4, 2-0 Atlanta.
If you're Jeff Blauser on at third base, what you want the defense to think is that the squeeze is on. So Jeff Blauser breaks 2 steps quickly. Now watch Kelly Gruber, the third baseman, react just as quickly. And Smoltz makes it a moot point by grounding into a double play. David Cone with 2 double plays in this game, and coming into this game he had thrown only 1 in his last 24 ball games.
So the Braves lead 2-0. With 2 double play ground balls have thwarted their opportunities to build on that lead. John Olerud was at the plate when Alomar was thrown out trying to score on the wild pitch that ended last inning. 0-2 on the Toronto first baseman, who has never played a day in the minor leagues. He came right to the major leagues with the Blue Jays off the campus of Washington State University. Very high and deep, but with room. David Justice at the edge of the warning track. For those of you just joining us, here is how we got to 2-0 in favor of Atlanta. David Justice scored from third on a wild pitch by David Cone in the bottom of the second, and Mark Lemke grounded a single through the right side, knocking in Sid Bream, who had started the 4th inning with a walk, to make it 2-0. Kelly Gruber at the plate. A ball high. Gruber struck out swinging his first time up. That ended the second. Smoltz has not had a strikeout since, even though he fanned 5 through the first 2 innings.
John Smoltz, traded from the Detroit Tigers As a matter of fact, he's from Detroit.
Down to third, bobbled by Pendleton. He recovers and throws him out.
Quick reactions by Terry Pendleton. An in-between hop, looked like off the heel of the glove. And watch how quickly Pendleton recovers. Fine play by Terry Pendleton.
And a strong throw got Gruber, who runs pretty well. Pendleton has won 2 Gold Gloves at third base in the National League. Cito Gaston was complaining to home plate umpire Mike Riley.
I believe it's the wrapping on the left hand of John Smoltz. You may remember that he tried to make the tag of Roberto Alomar. As a matter of fact, he did make the tag. And you're not supposed to be able to deceive the hitter with any particle of your clothing. And it is that left wrap he has on his left wrist. I think, what are you going to do? Paint it blue?
Put a blue wristband over it. And they were trying to pull down his sweatshirt over it. But apparently it won't stay down.
Here is how John Smoltz hurt his left wrist. In the top of the 4th inning, Roberto Alomar trying to score on a short, wild pitch. Barry Hill to Smoltz. As you can see, he was in ahead of the tag, but Mike Riley called him out. But it looked like John Smoltz jamming his left wrist into Alomar, and he is wrapping it. But certainly Cito Gaston within his rights to ask for Smoltz's sleeve to come down further. As a matter of fact, I think he took the wrap off.
Two away in the 5th inning, 2-0 Atlanta. The bases are empty for Pat Borders. And that foul ball got a piece of Damon Berryhill. Borders bounced to third his first time up. We've seen instances in the past where managers have asked chains around the neck of pitchers to be removed because they're a distraction. Oftentimes it can serve to motivate the pitcher, get him a bit angry. Remember Oil Can Boyd, just about every time he went out there, he had the Mr. T starter kit on, and undoubtedly the opposing manager would come out and ask that he remove the jewelry. Two balls and a strike on Borders. Check swing. It's a strike nonetheless on the breaking ball. Even count of 2-2.
John Smoltz is just making some nasty pitches on the Blue Jay hitters. A 2-1 breaking ball right on the corner.
Smoltz has only allowed 1 hit. That was the slap base hit to the opposite field by the pitcher Cone. And he's only walked 1. So Toronto only had 4 base runners last night, and they've only had 2 tonight through 4 2/3 innings. Three-2 pitch. Missed low with the fastball, and the Blue Jays have their 3rd base runner of the night on the 2nd walk thrown by Smoltz.
We mentioned John Smoltz coming over from the Detroit Tigers in 1987 for Doyle Alexander. Alexander went on to become 9-0 for a team that won the American League Eastern Division, Detroit. So Detroit got their guy for immediacy's sake, and John Smoltz was a pitcher of the future, and has he ever delivered. A terrific trade for both teams, but better for Atlanta.
And really all that maneuvering ties in with the Atlanta Braves as well, because the Atlanta Braves traded Dwayne Ward to Toronto to get Doyle Alexander. Then they turned around and traded Alexander to Detroit to get Smoltz. Manuel Lee looks at a ball low. 2-0 the count. Berryhill out to the mound, and Pendleton will join them.
So the Detroit connection with John Smoltz tell you, recently he has been rolling the dice like Nathan Detroit. The head character in Guys and Dolls, Damon Runyon's famous play that's been revived on Broadway. There's a great line to a song in that says, there's an awful lot of lettuce for the fella who can get us there. And if that doesn't apply to John Smoltz, because there's a lot of lettuce for the fella who can get us, and he's one of them.
Little broken bat looper, that will drop. Borders to second, and he'll stop there. So Manuel Lee delivers the second hit of the night for Toronto, and now they have the tying run aboard, and the go-ahead run coming to the plate in the person of the pitcher, David Cone.
How much lettuce last year? About $120,000. That's a lot of lettuce.
And as we mentioned, John Smoltz picked up $50,000 for being the MVP in the National League Championship Series this year.
A lot of lettuce, too.
Let us return to the game now, I think. David Cone single to left his first time up. We mentioned he had 18 hits in 1989, leading all National League pitchers. Smoltz missed outside with the ball. Tim, would the manager have any thought of pinch hitting for Cone?
I don't think so, no. He's allowed 2 runs. It's the 5th inning. He's a pretty good hitter. He has one of the 2 hits. I mean, he is a guy who can swing the bat. I think persuading Cito Gaston that he is a pretty good hitter. And Cito Gaston saying, well, he's a fine athlete. I mentioned leading the National League pitchers in hits in 1989 with 18.
The 2-0 is low, and Smoltz is in danger of walking David Cone, bringing the top of the order back up as Devon White waits on deck. Leo Mazzoni, the pitching coach. In the background, Jim Beecham, the dugout coach. Beecham, a former minor league manager in the Toronto organization. Now the 3-0 pitch. Cone with a bit of an acting job trying to buy the call. 3-1. Pitchers don't have much of a chance to work on that technique of diving out of the way of pitches.
He'll probably take again.
He does. It's a strike, and now the count is full, and with 2 outs, the runners will be off from second and first. And the fans try to spur John Smoltz onto his 6th strikeout of the night. He hasn't had one since the 2nd inning. The runners go. Cone lines it into center field, a hit. Borders is being waved in. Nixon's throw is cut off. Throw to second, goes into center field. Lee hobbling toward third. He is hurt. Cone into second. It's 2-1 Atlanta. David Cone is 2 for 2. But the concern on the Toronto side at the moment is Manuel Lee, who went hobbling toward third base. Borders congratulated as Tommy Craig, the trainer, comes out to take a look at Lee.
So it'll be a RBI single for David Cone, an error on Sid Bream. Had Borders not been running, this throw wouldn't have been cut off, but Nixon hits the cutoff man, but Bream throws it into center, and Lee hobbles to third.
Leo Mazzoni at the mound. Tommy Craig, the trainer, is running back toward the dugout. Cito Gaston, as you can see, is still out there with third base coach Rich Hacker.
I believe he hurt it with the dive back into second base. I don't think he hurt it rounding the bag, but I think he hammered that left knee into the ground trying to dive back into second base. And right there he stops the throw by Bream. I believe that's where he hurt his knee, because nothing indicated that he was hurt before that slide back into second.
The tying run at third. The go-ahead run at second. With 2 down in the 5th inning. 2-1 Atlanta. Devon White takes a strike. David Cone, the first American League pitcher with 2 hits in a World Series game since Mickey Lolich in Game 2 in 1968 with the Tigers.
One of those by Lolich, a home run off Nelson Briles.
David Cone wasn't lying when he told Cito Gaston he could hit.
That's right.
0-2 on White. He's 0 for 2 tonight. He was robbed of a hit on a great diving play in right field in the 3rd by David Justice. The 0-2 pitch. Lee bluffed way down the line, and White fouled it off. Manuel Lee came almost halfway down the 3rd base line on that pitch. Pete Smith, the right-hander, Charlie Leibrandt, the lefty. The first action of the night in the Braves pen. Beyond the home runs last night, all 4 runs in the game last night scored on homers. There wasn't really a lot of action. The pitchers mowed them down. Tonight, we've had all kinds of strange happenings. And we're not even midway through Game 2 of the World Series. White asked for time as Smoltz took too much time. 0-2 the count. Lemke has to hurry. White runs well. He bobbled it. Safe at first. Tie game as Lee has scored from 3rd.
You're right, Sean. This game, or this series, has gone from long ball to short ball. An RBI single for White. Watch the bobble, the momentary hesitation by Lemke. He reaches in, he came up with glove and not ball, and the throw is late. White safe.
It has been scored a hit and an RBI for Devon White. Now the go-ahead runners at 3rd. 2-2 the score, with runners at the corners and 2 outs for Roberto Alomar. Alomar walked his last time up. And the hit by White, the first hit in this series for the top of the order duo of Devon White and Roberto Alomar. They had been a combined 0 for 11 with just the walk to Alomar his last time up. And now the crowd very silent here at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium as Smoltz misses with ball 2, 2-0.
You've heard of the steal sign, and a lot of managers have a stop sign with a fast runner on at first base. In my opinion, now's a good time for the stop sign because a single on the right side plates the go-ahead run. I don't think White should be running here.
He's not, and it's ball 3.
Here you see the hole on the right side of the infield. Lemke towards second base. Alomar a straightaway hitter. To prove that, he had 2 home runs in the ALCS, 1 to right field and 1 to left field. But you can see that big gaping hole on the right side.
3-0 on Alomar. He's taking all the way, and it's a strike. Roberto will be followed by Joe Carter. Smoltz looked toward 3rd, then turned to 1st. To short. Nice play by Blauser as the ball bounced up at the last moment. That ends the inning. The Blue Jays get 2 to tie. Midway through Game 2, 2-2 the score. Conclusion of tonight's game, Tim McCarver and I will select the Chevrolet Most Valuable Player of the game. Chevrolet will donate $1,000 in the player's name to the Special Olympics. No clear-cut leader for that honor at the moment. Halfway through Game 2 of the 1992 World Series, the Blue Jays and Braves tied at 2. Tonight's game is being produced by Bob Dekas and directed by Joe Accetti. The Atlanta Braves coming up in the bottom of the 5th inning with the top of their order against David Cone. Otis Nixon, Deion Sanders, and Terry Pendleton are due. David Cone has referred to himself as a hired gun, a rent-a-pitcher, as Toronto acquired him in late August to try to solidify their pitching staff, heading down the home stretch of the race in the AL East as they held off the Orioles and Brewers. Toronto had to pick up $963,000 of Cone's $4.25 million salary for 1992. The rest of it paid by the New York Mets. So it cost Toronto approximately $240,000 for each of his wins. That's money well spent now that they're at the World Series for the first time. Otis Nixon fouled the first pitch away for strike 1. Otis is 0 for 2 tonight. Of course, getting here is just part of what the Blue Jays set out to do at the beginning of the year. Interesting to see in the clubhouse before the game tonight T-shirts being worn by several of the Blue Jays, including manager Cito Gaston, that said 3 for 3 in 92. And that 3 for 3 referred to the championships of the American League East, the American League as a whole, and the World Series. They've accomplished 2 of them and going for the 3rd tonight as John Smoltz has somebody take the magic marker to the wrap around his wrist so it won't be a distraction to the Blue Jay hitters.
Color me blue. We were kidding about that. What are you going to do? But speaking of blue, here's the T-shirt to which Sean referred. That is not a banner. That is a T-shirt. And the back of it, we can, we are, we will. And we'll see.
Got him. Nixon frozen for the first out of the 5th, and that's just the 2nd strikeout of the night for Cone, who fanned 261 batters during the regular season.
Leading the majors in strikeouts for the 3rd consecutive year. And a slider that stays over the middle part of the plate. The last pitcher to lead the majors in 3 consecutive years, Nolan Ryan, back in 1972, 3 and 4.
More balls than strikes for Cone. More ink on the wrist of Smoltz. Deion Sanders flied deep to right in the 1st, walked and stole 2nd in the 3rd. 1 ball on Neon Deion. Well hit to right. A base hit for Sanders. He's now 7 for 12 lifetime against David Cone.
We talked about the limp that Sanders had earlier. Remember, we said he had broken a bone back in March in spring training. It has not healed properly. And even with that limp, he stole 2nd base the first time he was on 1st.
And he's back to 1st on a quick throw by Cone. The hits are even at 4 apiece. The line scores now identical. 2 runs, 4 hits, and 1 error for each side. Pendleton at the plate with 1 out in the 5th. Out of play, 3rd base side. 1 strike on Pendleton, who's 1 for 2 with an infield hit in the 3rd. Again, Sanders is back to 1st. Deion caught a little bit of his Florida State Seminoles in action yesterday over at Georgia Tech before he came to the ballpark for Game 1 of the World Series. Sanders bluffed towards second. They pitch out, now throw to first, and Dion is just back safely. The tag was in the middle of his body, but his hand was on the bag prior to the tag of Olerud.
Think about all the action that Sanders has gone through already tonight. This is a fake break, a pitch out by Borders, and the throw to Olerud not in time. I think it's worth remembering that Sanders only started 2 of his last 41 ball games that the Braves have played. And here he's been on base twice.
And running. The pitch, a ball. The throw. One hopper gets away from Lee. Sanders heads to third. And again, he's hobbling as he arrives at third base. Second stolen base of the night for Sanders. He takes third on the error charge to Pat Borders.
Maybe it only hurts when he stops running. His second stolen base of the night, a bad pitch to handle for Borders, and an in-between hop off the wrist of Manny Lee, and Sanders is on third representing the go-ahead run. I would imagine it'll be an error on Pat Borders, the catcher.
You are correct. 4 stolen bases for the Braves tonight, 1 shy of the single game, 1 team record in World Series play. The infield in with the count 2-1 on Pendleton. 2-2 now. We're in the 5th. The Blue Jays and Braves tied at 2 in Game 2 of the World Series. Atlanta won Game 1 last night, 3-1. Pendleton asked for time. Cohn's pitch fouled out of play in left. The infield in with 1 out. A runner at third. We're in the 5th inning. The game tied at 2 and the count 2-2 on Pendleton. Terry Pendleton, just a 200-hitter lifetime against David Cone. He's 8 for 40 in their one-on-one battle. Another 2-2 pitch. Fastball nearly grazed him.
No way he gets another fastball here. Pendleton foul 1 back, the other inside. And Cone will either go to the splitter or the slider. Slider.
On the 3-2 pitch. Way outside, ball 4. So that sets up the inning-ending double play possibility. Cone has already escaped 2 jams via an inning-ending double play. David Justice walked and scored the first run of the ball game in the second. He flied to right in the third. The infield has moved back for the Jays. They'll play for 2 to get out of the inning unscathed.
This is the type of situation that we were talking about last night. Toronto has only 1 effective reliever in the bullpen. That's a left-handed pitcher. That's David Wells. He pitched in last night's game. But if Cito Gaston were thinking about taking David out of a game like this, he would want to go to a left-hander with Justice and Green back-to-back in a tie game, because your game situation might be here in the 5th inning.
There is no action in the Toronto pen at the moment, but that is about to change as they're scurrying around down there. First pitch, a ball low to Justice. Tough man to double up. Justice only bounced into 1 double play this year. He had 105 chances to do so. Time called. Pitching coach Galen Cisco is on his way to the mound, buying some time for the bullpen that just got started. The right-hander Todd Stottlemyre, the lefty David Wells. Both Wells and Stottlemyre appeared in the game last night.
And the trip to the mound right now by Galen Cisco, the pitching coach, has one intention. That's to give the guys in the bullpen a chance to warm up. Because if Justice were to walk and you have the bases loaded and one out, I think the left-hander would be brought into the game.
Stottlemyre and Wells warming up under the watchful eye of bullpen coach John Sullivan, a long-time Toronto coach. Crowd growing a bit restless. And Mike Riley's going to break up the conversation. Galen Cisco pitched in the major leagues for the Red Sox, the Mets, and Kansas City. Back in the dugout with the count 1-0 on Justice. One out, runners at first and third in a 2-2 ball game in the 5th inning. The shift is on for Justice. 3 infielders on the right side. 2-0. Manuel Lee, the shortstop, pulled over to the right field side of the second base bag. The 2-0 pitch. Chopped by Alomar. The Braves go back on top 3-2. Winfield juggled the ball a bit. Sanders scored. The throw comes all the way into the plate. But Pendleton had stopped at third. It's a base hit and an RBI for David Justice. 3-2 Atlanta.
Even with the shift on, David Justice pulls it so hard that it gets by Robbie Alomar. We talked about his range, but that ball was scalded to right field. And I think you're going to see the left-hander now, David Wells.
At the very least, we will see a new pitcher because Cito Gaston is on his way to the mound. And it's the second trip of the inning. He has summoned David Wells, the lefty, with the left-handed hitting Sid Bream due up. 3-2 Braves. Back to Atlanta in a moment. The best seat in the house belongs to the airship Shamu, gracefully floating 1,500 feet above Atlanta. More than 8,000 lights flash messages and animation on the side of the ship.
And the Toronto Blue Jays will try to right their ship with the left-hander David Wells. He was in last night's ball game. He worked the 8th inning, walking 1, striking out 1, giving up no runs and no hits. And Bobby Cox has countered Cito Gaston's move.
Now that Gaston has brought the lefty into the ball game, Cox has countered by calling Sid Bream back and sending Brian Hunter up to pinch hit. Hunter at .239 in the regular season with 14 home runs. 12 of those 14 homers came off left-handed pitchers. He had more home runs off southpaws than any other Brave. He had 2 pinch hit home runs. He's batting with runners at first and third and 1 out. 1 run in, 3-2 Atlanta in the 5th. And the first pitch of the night from Wells, a strike. And the mood of David Wells has changed dramatically from the start of the ball game when he was showing his support for David Cone with the cone head. The 0-1 to Hunter. Well hit to right field. On the run, Winfield toward the line to make the running catch. Pendleton coming to the plate, and he scores as the throw goes towards second. It's 4-2 Atlanta. The pinch hit RBI for Brian Hunter.
Fine play by Winfield. Excellent hitting by Brian Hunter. as Terry Pendleton scores without a play. The Atlanta playing with so much confidence in these two games. You win a game like they did, coming from behind on Wednesday night, scoring 3 runs in the bottom of the 9th inning. And you better have confidence. You have to have confidence when you win like that.
Well, you start to believe that you're a team of destiny.
Right.
Jeff Blauser looked at a ball low and away. He's the 6th batter of the inning, still just a runner at first now and 2 down. Blauser 1 for 2, a single his last time up. 4-2 Atlanta. Blue Jays scored twice in the top of the inning. The Braves have matched the 2 in the bottom of the 5th. And the count 2-0 on Blauser. Braves knocked David Cone out of the ball game after 4 1/3. Check swing at a ball low and away. They appeal down to first. No swing, says Joe West. 3-0.
He may be hitting here. Blauser with a home run off Doug Drabek in the National League Championship Series. It's a good time to give him the green light.
Looked like he had it. He started to pull the trigger, but thought better of it with the ball low and away. He walks on 4 pitches. The first walk thrown by Wells, the 5th issued by Toronto pitching tonight. Justice at second, Blauser at first, with 2 down in the 5th inning. 4-2 Atlanta. And the 7th batter of the inning is Damon Berryhill. He switches around to bat from the right side against Wells. And Wells has asked Borders to come out to the mound. The crowd here at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium has watched Berryhill come up in big situations all night. He came up with 2 men on in the 2nd. The Braves wound up scoring on a wild pitch while he was at the plate. He came up with 2 more men on in the 4th inning and flied to right. He's up with 2 men on again, and he looked at a ball low and in, 1-0. Of course, Berryhill batted with 2 men on in the 6th inning last night and hit the 3-run homer that was the difference in the 3-1 Braves Game 1 win. He had a great year hitting from the right side in 1989, .340, but since then he hasn't been able to find the stroke from the right side of the plate.
Only 1 home run right-handed this year.
Wells, a big guy at 6'4". They list him at 225 pounds. Berryhill with a pop-up. One ball and 1 strike.
Some excitement, huh?
I suppose that's appropriate for a fan of that age at 10:40 in the evening. The 1-1 from Wells, chopped foul past Jimmy Williams in the third base coach's box. Jimmy, rumored to be one of the candidates for the Florida Marlins managing job. He's interviewed with them a couple of times. And as we mentioned earlier, Williams, a former manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. He took over when Bobby Cox returned to Atlanta to become the Braves general manager.
And Cito Gaston taking over for Jimmy Williams when Jimmy Williams was fired in 1989.
The 1-2 to Berryhill. Chopped down the line, just fouled. Interesting how quick everybody that we've talked to in a manager's uniform in the postseason has been to praise Jimmy Williams as one of the best third base coaches in the game today. Jim Leland, the Pittsburgh Pirate manager, said it during the playoffs. Bobby Cox, Williams manager, has sung his third base coach's praises, and Cito Gaston said it again before the game tonight.
Yeah.
They go out of their way to praise the third base coach. He must really be doing a good job, because most of the time he's like an umpire. You don't notice him that he's doing a good job, but he's doing a good job and people are noticing.
I'll tell you, he is the manager on the field. Once the team is on the bases, like in a situation like that, it's his decision-making process that can determine whether runs are scored or not.
The 1-2 pitch in the dirt and blocked by Borders. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. 2 runs in here in the bottom of the 5th. And the Braves lead 4-2. Justice the runner at second and Blauser at first. Wells working very slowly. Now the 2-2 pitch. He struck him out with the fastball over the inside part of the plate. That ends the inning. The Braves lead 4-2 and will return to Atlanta Fulton County Stadium after this word from your local station. After 5 innings, the Braves lead the Blue Jays 4-2, and if you're a Brave fan, you have to feel pretty good about the fact that John Smoltz has the lead again with the way he has pitched throughout his career in the postseason.
Especially the postseason, the League Championship Series, the World Series. He had no decisions last year. He's 4-0 in the League Championship Series and trying not to squander this lead. Last year, 2 no decisions against Minnesota.
Brian Hunter remains in the ballgame at first base for the Braves. He came up as a pinch hitter in the bottom of the 5th. Joe Carter, the leadoff man in the 6th. Smoltz snapped off the breaking ball, lost his balance a bit as Carter took ball 1. The big boppers in the middle of the order coming up for the Jays. Carter, Winfield, and Olerud. Batters 3, 4, and 5. Joe's 0 for 2 tonight. Check swing. It's a strike. Carter protested a strike call earlier tonight, and he's upset again.
That is when the wrap on the left wrist of John Smoltz was flesh colored, and they put that ink on it, a magic marker on that, over that wristband.
They wanted to appeal down to first. Finally, Mike Riley points down there, and Joe West says it was not a strike. 2-2.
Those 2 no decisions, by the way, that Smoltz had in last year's World Series came in games 4 and 7, giving up only 2 runs in 14 1/3. Why did he pitch in game 4? Well, he was the one who shut out the Pittsburgh Pirates in game 7, 4-0, to put the Braves in the series.
Slicing toward the bullpen. Long run. Justice. Great effort. He hustled all the way and went over the mound but couldn't get to it. When you speak of game 4, still a question mark as to who will be the starting pitcher for the Braves in game 4. Cito Gaston has announced Jimmy Key will go for Toronto, and in all likelihood it will be Tom Glavine in game 4 for Atlanta. Bobby Cox wants to wait until he has a chance to throw between starts and see how Glavine feels. Threw 126 pitches last night. But I'd bet after that performance last night it will be Tom Glavine.
I would too. Bobby Cox telling us before the game that he doesn't get too wrapped up on pitch count, but he tries to blend in common sense and who the pitcher is. A power pitcher like John Smoltz needs the extra power, but Bobby said he could probably throw 160, 170 pitches a game.
A full count on Carter with Winfield on deck. And that's ball 4. The tying run will come to the plate in the person of Dave Winfield, who at age 41 seems to set a record every day. We asked him about it.
If I didn't play well, I'd be sick and tired of people talking about, well, your age. But now that they're saying, well, no man past 38 is hit for the cycle, no man over 40 is driven in 100. Hey, next year they'll be talking something else about age and accomplishment. God willing, I stay healthy, keep playing like I play, and play on a good team.
And Dave alluded to the most well-publicized of his accomplishments at age 40. The distinction of becoming the oldest player ever to drive in 100 runs in a season. He did that this year. 108 runs batted in at age 40. He was 40 for almost the entire year, turned 41 on the final weekend of the regular season, and was serenaded with a round of happy birthdays by the sellout crowd at the Sky Dome.
He was born October 3rd, 1951, the same day that Bobby Thompson hit the home run off Ralph Branca.
The ball and a strike on Winfield. He's 0 for 2 tonight. Carter at first and nobody out in the top of the 6th. The Braves lead 4-2. 2 balls and a strike. Dave Winfield has performed on the field but also off the field for the Blue Jays. He has become a tremendous force in the clubhouse, and he said the two go hand in hand. If you're a new player but you don't produce on the field, then the teammates aren't really going to respect what you have to say in the clubhouse. Nixon comes in now to make the catch.
That's the fastball that we were talking about earlier when we mentioned Smoltz would come inside to Carter and Winfield. Usually if a player stands back away from the plate, he likes the ball away. Dave Winfield in particular, those long arms, but this fastball just ties him up. That ball really down the heart of the plate, but it was high enough, and Dave did not hit it well at all. But usually if you stand back away from the plate, you like the ball away, indicating you should be pitched inside.
John Olerud looked at a strike. Olerud is 0 for 2 against John Smoltz tonight. Breaking ball missed. 1-1. There is action in the Atlanta bullpen. Right-hander Pete Smith is throwing again. John Smoltz scheduled to bat second in the bottom of the 6th inning. This will be the 95th pitch of the night for Smoltz. And it's inside. 2 balls and a strike.
Whether he bats or not in the bottom of the 6th inning, I think depends on what kind of inning he has. If he can get out with no runs and not throw a lot of pitches, I believe he'll be the batter. If not, we may see a pinch hitter.
Ball 3.
As Bobby Cox said, common sense. Not only pitch count, but common baseball sense. A lot of people with common sense that don't have common baseball sense.
To short and caught. They will double off Carter. Joe was caught in between, trying to judge if that ball would hit the ground or be caught in the air by Blauser, and the double play ends the inning. On to the bottom of the 6th, 4-2 Atlanta. Game 2 of the 1992 World Series. 4-2 Atlanta as the Braves come up in the 6th inning. Mark Lemke, 1 for 2. He singled to drive in the second Atlanta run of the night in the 4th inning. He swings at the first pitch and lifts a lazy fly ball to center for the first out. Interesting, Tim, to see a couple of innings ago Lemke have trouble getting the ball out of his glove on the play Devon White beat to first base, because as we saw before the game tonight, Lemke has a very small glove and it's certainly tattered and torn.
I should say so. Matter of fact, the tears are at the base of the glove. Mark has had that glove for 6 years, and it looks like it. If anything ever looks 6 years old, that thing does. The only thing that he has changed is the webbing in the glove. You can see that that is new, but it's amazing how small that glove is. It's tiny.
And obviously that small glove contributes to his quick release, of which you were speaking at the start of the ball game when Bobby Cox said Lemke and Bill Mazeroski are the 2 best he's ever seen among second basemen for getting rid of the ball.
Mark says that before every game he constantly takes the ball out of the glove, puts it back in, takes it out. He'll do that 200-300 times a day. Get used to the feel of taking it out of the mitt. And Bobby Cox astounding us, comparing him with Mazeroski. That is tall company right there.
About as tall as it gets. John Smoltz is 0 for 2. He has struck out and bounced into a double play. Facing David Wells with a count of 1-2. And Smoltz knew that he was out. The second strikeout for David Wells, who has faced 5 batters since coming in relief of David Cone. All 4 runs scored by Atlanta charged to David Cone. Otis Nixon batting for the first time tonight from the right side of the plate. He went 0 for 3 against Cone.
Much better hitter right-handed than left-handed.
With .343 during the regular season from the right side. Winfield in the foul territory to make a nice play. No problems for Dave Winfield in right field tonight. On to the 7th, 4-2 Atlanta. Welcome back to Atlanta Fulton County Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia for Game 2 of the 1992 World Series. The Braves lead the World Series 1-0, trying to take a 2-0 lead with a 4-2 edge in Game 2 as we go to the 7th inning. Kelly Gruber leads off against John Smoltz and looks at strike 1. Sean McDonough along with Tim McCarver, Jim Cott, and Pat O'Brien. And Kelly Gruber trying to break out of an 0 for 20 postseason slump with a bunt try that comes over the screen. Gruber is 0 for 2 tonight. He has struck out and bounced to third. He'll be followed by Pat Borders and Manuel Lee. Batters 6, 7, and 8 for the Jays.
I'm a little surprised that the bullpen is not active for the Blue Jays with the pitcher scheduled up fourth. As I just said that, someone is getting up in the Toronto bullpen.
And the Braves bullpen is about to get started. Out in the Toronto pen, Todd Stottlemyre will begin warming up again. Gruber swung at a pitch way out of the strike zone. They throw it down to first for the out. Well, when you're struggling, and Kelly Gruber is really struggling. That pitch was nowhere near the strike zone. Atlanta scored first in the bottom of the second. David Justice scored on a David Cone wild pitch. The Braves scored again in the 4th inning. A single to right by Mark Lemke brought in Sid Bream. Then David Cone delivered his second hit of the night, a single to score Pat Borders. And we'll continue the recap of the scoring in a moment. First, a swing and a foul tip by Borders. Devon White singled in Manuel Lee to tie the game at 2-2 halfway through. But Atlanta responded immediately. David Justice with a single to score Deion Sanders. Borders with a base hit. Sanders watches it go by to the wall. Borders on his way to second with a 1-out double. Pat Borders continues to produce in the World Series for Toronto. He was 2 for 3 last night. He's 1 for 2 tonight. He walked earlier tonight and scored a run.
Hanging curveball from John Smoltz. Ball scoots by Sanders. An easy double. It's got to be disturbing to Cito Gaston that in 1+ games, this being, of course, the second game, that David Cone, the pitcher, has 2 hits. Pat Borders has 3 hits, and the rest of the team has 4 in these 2 ball games. That's when you know you're having problems scoring runs.
The tying run at the plate in Manuel Lee, who takes a fastball for a strike. And for those of you who joined us late, the only other run in this game to the moment scored on a sacrifice fly by Brian Hunter in the bottom of the 5th. And brought in Terry Pendleton to make it 4-2. That's where we stand with 1 out in the top of the 7th. Borders at second. Very late swing at the fastball. 0-2 on Lee.
With Smoltz throwing as hard as he has been throwing, Deion Sanders in left field near the line and could be a bit more shallow. Lee does not have power the other way as a left-hander.
The off-speed pitch got him. So Smoltz struck out 5 over the first 2 innings. Then he did not record another strikeout until here in the 7th when he fanned Gruber to start the inning, and now Lee for the 2nd out.
Smoltz is making some pitches. A wicked breaking ball to get Manny Lee.
The pitcher Wells due up, but he has been called back, and Candy Maldonado is going to pinch hit. Candy was the starting left fielder last night in Game 1 for the Blue Jays and went 0 for 3 with a pair of strikeouts against Tom Glavine. He's coming off a fine league championship series against Oakland, in which he hit 2 home runs. And he has 9 career pinch hit homers.
That's the most by any active player.
Smoltz jammed him. Candy fought it off for strike 1. Bobby Cox was talking before the game about how in the World Series last year, Jack Morris seemed to get stronger as games went along. He could rear back for something extra in the late innings, particularly in Game 7 of last year's World Series. It seems as though that's what Smoltz is doing again here. Plenty on that one. Again, a very late swing by Maldonado, 0-2. That last fastball from Smoltz at 91 miles per hour. Maldonado has never had a hit off John Smoltz. He's 0 for 7 lifetime against the Atlanta right-hander. 4-2 Braves. With a runner at second and 2 down in the Toronto 7th. That one bounced way out in front of the plate. And to third goes Pat Borders. On the second wild pitch of the night, thrown by John Smoltz.
Damon Berryhill has no chance to come up with this one. I don't even think he touched the ball. It skips by him in the second wild pitch of the game by John Smoltz. Tell you, Sean, that the hitters will tell you, they talk about the radar gun, 91-mile-an-hour fastballs. The hitters tell you how well you're throwing. If you get a strong hitter like Maldonado fouling the ball off to the right side, the ball's on top of it. Now, those radar guns are okay when you're trying to rehab things, but look at the hitter-pitcher relationship more than the speed of the ball.
From the windup, the 1-2 pitch. Struck him out with a wicked breaking ball. Smoltz strikes out the side of the 7th. 7th inning stretch in Atlanta. 4-2 Braves. Moments ago, the 7th inning stretch enjoyed by Braves owner Ted Turner and his wife Jane Fonda. They enjoy what they see on the scoreboard as well. A 4-2 lead for the Braves as they come up in the bottom of the 7th against the third Toronto pitcher of the night, Todd Stottlemyre. Greeted by Deion Sanders.
That was a swing with the body, but not with the bat. His body went around, but the bat didn't.
And as such, it's ruled ball one. Broken bat line drive handled by Lee. Sanders now 1 for 3. On this busy sports day, Terry Pendleton stands in. Waved at a pitch up in the strike zone. Pendleton 1 for 2, an infield hit. He walked and scored in the 2-run fifth, adding the difference in the ball game. Pendleton faced Stottlemyre last night and bounced to short. Todd worked 1 inning, a perfect 1-2-3-7, including strikeouts of Nixon and Blauser. Pendleton at the plate, Justice on deck. That's bounced foul past the first base bag. John Olerud plays with the batting helmet in the field because in 1989 he had surgery for the removal of a brain aneurysm, and his father suggested that he wear the batting helmet in the field. Fortunately, he hasn't any problems along those lines since then. Pretty good fastball, and Pendleton fought it off to stay alive at 1-2. There is action in the Toronto bullpen, and interesting to see Jimmy Key warming up. He's scheduled to be the starting pitcher in Game 4. It's possible this is just a tune-up prior to his start. Alomar throws Pendleton up. It's a chilly night here in Atlanta. The temperature continues to drop, 54. And clear at the moment. We've had snow flurries in Toronto today, and the temperature 34 degrees.
It's safe to say then that the roof will be closed on Tuesday night.
I hope so. I did not pack my CBS Sports parka. Justice packs a wallop to deep right center field. White on the warning track makes the catch. 1, 2, 3 go the Braves. We head to the 8th with Atlanta on top 4-2. Still stand at 4-2 into the 8th inning. John Smoltz still on the mound, facing the top of the order. Swing and a miss for strike 1 by Devon White. The hits even at 5 apiece. Smoltz struck out the side last inning. He has fanned 8 tonight. He's thrown 112 pitches with this one, and he's still throwing hard. 0-2.
Tommy Glavine with a complete game last night. If John Smoltz pitches a complete game victory tonight, it'll be the first time since 1965 that 2 complete game victories were pitched in the first and second game of the World Series. Who did it that year? Mudcat Grant beat Don Drysdale, and in the second game, Jim Cott beat Sandy Koufax. Not too shabby.
Jim Cott?
James Cott. James Lee Cott.
What's he do now?
There he is. Hi, Kitty. It's living, isn't it?
See, for a guy who spent a lot of his life in Minnesota, he's probably bundled up down there in a 54-degree night.
That's complete game victories by the same team, of course.
Yes,
and obviously,
indeed.
if Smoltz wins this game, it will be the second complete game victory for the Braves.
White to center, the routine fly for Nixon. 1 out in the 8th inning. Airship Shamu is bringing us tonight's aerial shots of the contest between the Blue Jays and Braves. And a capacity crowd on hand, 51,763. The official attendance tonight for Game 2 of the World Series. There's a base hit heading for the left field corner for Roberto Alomar. Sanders gets it back in, and Alomar stops at second with a 1-out double. So he has his first hit of the World Series. And once again, the tying run will come to the plate for the Blue Jays with the meat of the order coming up.
Roberto Alomar, he is very difficult to defend. From line to line does he hit, as that double down the left field line shows. Once again, Bobby Cox, remember we talked about the pitch count and everything, showing common sense. He thinks John Smoltz still has good stuff, and he's going to allow him to pitch at least to Joe Carter.
Carter, who homered last night. He's over 2 with a walk tonight. There's a high fly ball hooking foul. Carter got a big chunk of it, but it's well back into the stands and well foul in left. The Toronto Blue Jays have hit at least 1 home run in each of their 7 postseason games this year. They have not hit one tonight. Smoltz working with a 4-2 lead in the 8th. Alomar at second with 1 out. The 0-1 pitch. Breaking ball. Swung on and missed. Carter will be followed by Dave Winfield. Up the middle, a base hit. Carter didn't hit hard, but he got it through. Alomar had to hold up to see if the ball would be caught, so he moves to third. Now the tying run is aboard at first, and the go-ahead run will come to the plate with Winfield to bat next.
Joe Carter has to be so strong to hit a ball like that. It's almost like the bat bends. You could see Alomar realizing they trail by 2 runs and understanding that there's no way he can be doubled off at second base, playing the passive brand of the game and just going to third, not realizing whether that ball would have been caught or not. Interesting situation right here. But so far, Bobby Cox elects to stay with John Smoltz, and you can't blame him. He's still throwing very, very well.
Well, the hit by Alomar was an opposite field hit along the line and left, and Carter's didn't have much on it but got through. But a lot of pitches in 4 postseason starts for John Smoltz, and not a lot of rest in between. Winfield says, yeah, he sure is throwing hard.
Bob Gibson used to say about right-handed hitters like that, just think out there, don't go out there.
Alomar at third, Carter at first. 4-2 Atlanta in the top of the 8th inning. 1 out, 1-0 the count on Winfield. Chop to the right side, base hit past Lemke. Alomar scores to make it 4-3. Carter on his way to third. He is safe, and it's a 1-run ball game. Dave Winfield with his first RBI in the World Series.
And an opposite field 38 hopper. Lemke can't get to it. Excellent base running by Joe Carter to go to third on the strong arm of David Justice. They're on their feet in Atlanta, and I would imagine they're on their feet in Toronto right now, too.
Standing ovation for Smoltz as he departs. Winfield's first RBI in this World Series knocks him out. Winfield had only 1 RBI in the 81 World Series. We're back in a moment. The Blimp looking down on a thriller in Game 2 of the 1992 World Series. The Blue Jays have scored a run here in the 8th inning to cut the lead to 1 for Atlanta. John Olerud at the plate with the tying run at third. The go-ahead run at first with 1 out in the 8th inning. Mike Stanton's first pitch is popped up. Terry Pendleton in. 2 outs in the 8th inning.
For Before the game tonight, we specifically asked Cito Gaston that if Mike Stanton came in the game to pitch to John Olerud, would he leave Olerud in the game? He said absolutely.
And the reason why, Olerud's batting average has a difference of only 2 points for his career versus right-handers as compared to left-handers. Olerud's at 270 against right-handed pitchers and 268 against lefties. And there is virtually no difference. Stanton has never allowed a hit with a runner in scoring position in postseason competition, as you saw. They are 0 for 17 against him in this situation. But he won't have a chance to continue that streak, as Jeff Reardon will be the new pitcher when we come back. Moments ago at the Blue Jay dugout, Kelly Gruber discussing the situation with Cito Gaston, with hitting coach Larry Heisel on the right. Situation is simple. The tying run is at third. The go-ahead run at first with 2 outs in the 8th. Jeff Reardon's first pitch fouled straight back. But Bobby Cox, in making the change of pitchers, playing the percentages and getting the right-handed Reardon on Gruber, a right-handed hitter. But Cox is undoubtedly aware of the numbers. Gruber 6 for 12 lifetime against Reardon, including a home run.
Plus, you're not seeing the Jeff Reardon that the Blue Jays have been facing in past years, the all-time saves leader. But he is not the pitcher, obviously, that he was for the Boston Red Sox earlier, or the Minnesota Twins, or the Montreal Expos.
And while he's had an up-and-down ride all season long, Stanton's been unhittable in postseason play. Kelly Gruber has been hitless in his last 21 postseason at-bats. And in the hole here, 1 and 2, is Kelly Gruber. The fans trying to help Reardon out of the jam. 1 run is scored for the Blue Jays in the 8th inning. 4-3 Atlanta. Toronto with runners at first and third and 2 outs. Strike 3, borderline pitch at best on the inside corner, and Gruber can't believe it.
Gruber thought the ball was inside. Could have been. But Reardon gets the call, and Atlanta maintains the lead.
And Gruber now shares the all-time record for consecutive hitless at-bats in a single postseason. 22. Back in a moment.
You can see Damon Berryhill, the catcher, set up curveball outside. Rarely will a catcher get a called strike on a breaking ball when he has to cross the plate to catch it. But they got it there. That's clearly a mistake by Reardon that he got away with.
That ball went around the plate, it looked like, Gruber said. Brian Hunter batting against the new Toronto hurler, the 4th pitcher of the night for the Jays, Dwayne Ward. Hunter came up as a pinch hitter for Sid Bream and delivered a sacrifice fly to drive in a run in the 5th. Ward, a native of New Mexico and the former Atlanta Brave. We mentioned his track record. He went to Toronto in a deal for Doyle Alexander. Then Alexander left to Detroit in the deal that brought John Smoltz to the Braves. That's a strike, says Joe West. Hunter, Blauser, and Berryhill due up in the bottom of the 8th inning. Atlanta holding on to a 1-run lead, 4-3. The Braves have been out hit 8-5. That's a smash. Gruber continues to play excellent defense. 1 out in the 8th inning.
Brian Hunter not fooled a bit on this fastball. This ball is ripped to third. In between hops, smothered by Gruber. Nice play.
Interesting what Cito Gaston said to us before the game. Oftentimes Gruber will field balls like that and not look the ball into his glove. His head will snap up, and yet he still makes the play. And it looked like that time that might have been the case.
Well, you don't have a chance on a ball hit that hard to look it into your glove.
Foul tipped in the mid of quarters. 1-1 on Blauser.
Ball hit that hard, you're just trying to defend yourself.
Blauser is singled and walked after reaching on a fielder's choice and stealing second, back in the second. He chased the ball out of the strike zone, 1-2. Jeff Reardon likely to come on in the 9th inning, at least to start the inning, although Mark Wohlers is warming up. Bottom third of the Toronto order is due in the 9th. Pat Borders, Manuel Lee, and then the pitcher. There's Wohlers, the hard-throwing right-hander. The 2-2 from Dwayne Ward. Ooh. He throws hard, and that was some loud chin music.
Does not happen to be the tune that Jeff Blauser likes. Blauser and Dwayne Ward, teammates in the minor leagues for the Braves.
Not a nice way to treat your teammate. Blauser strikes out for the second out of the inning, and the first strikeout of the night for Dwayne Ward. Mike Timlin is warming up in the Blue Jay bullpen. Well, the relief pitching tonight of Wells, Stottlemyre, and Ward has been outstanding. As a matter of fact, they have not surrendered a hit.
And Stottlemyre and Wells did not surrender a hit in last night's game. Each of them working one inning.
Damon Berryhill up there with a count of a ball and a strike. He's 0 for 2 with a walk in his first at bat this evening. Two outs in the bottom of the 8th. The Braves lead 4-3. A ball and 2 strikes on the Atlanta catcher. Ward working quickly, and Berryhill laid off the ball low and in. Blue Jays have about as good a setup man and closer combination as you can have in Major League Baseball, with Ward setting up Henke so well all year long. And he blew away Berryhill. 2 strikeouts in the inning. 1, 2, 3 go the Braves. We go to the 9th. Borders, Lee, and Ward due up. Atlanta leads by a run. The Braves 4, the Blue Jays 3 as we go to the top of the 9th. Toronto at the bottom third of its order coming up. Borders, Lee, and the pitcher Ward scheduled for Cito Gaston. And there's what Cito has available on his bench as potential pinch hitters. He already has sent Derek Bell into the on-deck circle as Borders lines one to right, and Justice is there. 1 pitch and 1 out. Rafael Belliard is into the ball game for Atlanta at shortstop as they shore up their defense. Braves trying to take a 2-0 advantage in the 1992 World Series. With Manuel Lee due, Derek Bell is the pinch hitter. Lee went 1 for 3 tonight with a single and a run scored. Bell hit .242 during the regular season, with 2 homers and 15 runs batted in 61 games. Reardon with a fastball that just missed outside. Ed Sprague has moved into the on-deck circle to bat for the pitcher Ward. One ball and 1 strike. Jeff Reardon, Major League Baseball's all-time save leader, facing a man who hasn't appeared much in the postseason. Bell got into only 2 games without an official at bat in the LCS against Oakland. Reardon at age 37, the oldest Brave. pitching in the postseason for his 4th team. Bell shoots it back in our direction.
That ball was hittable there. He missed that pitch.
Two balls and 2 strikes.
The only appearance of Derek Bell in the ALCS was as a pinch runner.
And as you saw, he didn't even pinch hit much during the regular season. That's out of play. First base side. Still 2-2. By pitching in the postseason for 4 different teams, Montreal, Minnesota, Boston, and now Atlanta, Jeff Reardon has tied Doyle Alexander's major league record postseason appearances with the most teams. Whoa. Bell laid off an off-speed pitch that was very close. It has certainly been an eventful night for home plate umpire Mike Riley. Now the payoff pitch. Fouled away.
Another one just missed. When a hitter is on a pitch like that, they foul it straight back. So Derek Bell has just missed 2 fastballs from Reardon.
Ball 4, low and away. Reardon went to the fastball and missed. And now the tying run is aboard at first base with 1 out in the top of the 9th inning. Bell with decent speed, 7 stolen bases in only 61 games during the regular season. And now Ed Sprague to bat for the pitcher Ward. He was 1 for 2 with a single in the league championship series against Oakland. Both of his at-bats in the playoffs were as a pinch hitter. Well hit to left field. To the wall, Deion Sanders. Home run, Ed Sprague. Off the bench with a pinch hit 2-run homer off Jeff Reardon to give the Toronto Blue Jays a 5-4 lead.
The first pinch homer for the Blue Jays this year. And is it ever a big one? Wow.
What a great moment for Ed Sprague as Devon White turned the bunt and took a ball. Ed Sprague was involved in somewhat of a controversy this summer as White bounces one down to first. Hunter slipped, but gets the tag on White. Ed Sprague's wife, Kristen Babb Sprague, won a gold medal at the Summer Olympics in solo synchronized swimming. Obviously, it was a great moment for him. Unfortunately, she won the gold medal because of a judging error made by a judge from Brazil involving a competitor from Canada. Sylvie Frechette had the mistake in the judging not been made and the wrong score not punched in. Sylvie Frechette of Canada would have won the gold medal, but the mistake was made. They could not correct it, and Ed Sprague's wife won the gold medal, and that was the source of some controversy in Canada.
There was no error in judgment on that home run. Clearly out of the ballpark. What a big moment in that young man's life. His dad, a pitcher for Oakland, Cincinnati, St. Louis, and Milwaukee.
And certainly every Canadian is happy for Ed Sprague tonight. 5-4. Toronto has the lead for the first time tonight. You mentioned Ed Sprague, senior. He was on the Reds roster in 1972, but did not play in the World Series. Alomar pops up a bunt try. Lemke fields it. And that ends the inning. But the 2-run homer by Sprague has given Toronto the lead. Lemke, the pitcher, and Nixon do up for Atlanta in the bottom of the 9th. In the center of your screen, Kristen Babb Sprague, gold medalist at the Summer Olympics for the United States in synchronized swimming, and tonight the very proud wife of Ed Sprague. She's been wiping away tears as we watched her during the break between innings. Sprague's pinch hit two-run homer has given Toronto a 5-4 lead. As we go to the bottom of the ninth with Tom Henke on, the closer of the Blue Jays, trying to save it. Mark Lemke to lead off. Then the pitchers do. The on-deck circle is empty at the moment. Lemke 1 for 3 with an RBI single tonight. Henke's first pitch is strike.
In postseason play, Tom Henke is 2-0 with 3 saves and a 1.65 earned run average.
And encompasses all of his postseason experience, and you saw his numbers from this year's League Championship Series against Oakland. He is quickly ahead of Lemke 0-2. Alfredo Griffin is into the ball game at shortstop. They pinch hit for Manuel Lee in the top of the ninth. In the dirt. This is what Bobby Cox has available to him on the bench, and he has already sent Lonnie Smith into the on-deck circle to bat for the pitcher, Jeff Reardon. There's Smith. Two and two.
Ed Sprague still in the dugout. He wants to make sure it was a game-winning home run.
His heart must still be pounding.
Oh, man.
He hit only 1 home run during the regular season. He only appeared in 22 games. Just as Cabrera was an unlikely hero in Game 7 of the playoffs for Atlanta, Sprague an unlikely hero at the moment for Toronto. But they still must survive the bottom of the ninth. Lemke has battled off the 0-2 hook to a full count. Reardon plagued by long balls in the last couple of years of his career, and again tonight Lemke bounced that one foul.
That home run by Ed Sprague was only the second home run in postseason play. Only the second pinch hit home run in postseason play to take a team from losing to winning. The other one in the 1988 World Series Game 1. Dennis Eckersley giving up the 2-run homer to Kirk Gibson to win it for the Dodgers.
Lemke, a shallow fly ball to left for Joe Carter. 1 out. And if the Blue Jays hang on and win this one, the performance of the bullpen tonight should not be overlooked. David Wells pitched an inning and 2/3 without allowing a hit or a run. Todd Stottlemyre pitched 1 perfect inning. Dwayne Ward 1 perfect inning. And now Henke has retired the first batter he has faced. The last hit for the Braves came off David Cone back in the 5th inning. David Justice with the RBI single for Bobby Cox. Cox has Lonnie Smith at the plate. Smith appeared 6 times in the playoffs against Pittsburgh. All 6 at-bats as a pinch hitter, and he was 2 for 6. He hasn't put the ball in play in 3 career at-bats against Henke. Well hit, but well fouled down in the Toronto bullpen.
Not too many right-handed batters put the ball in play and hit it hard against Henke. Only 1 hit in the last 28 at-bats for right-handed batters in postseason play against Tom Henke.
5-4 Toronto with 1 out, and the bases empty in the 9th, and that hit Lonnie Smith. The fans boo, but certainly that's the last thing Tom Henke wanted to do, is put the potential tying run on base and bring the winning run to the plate. Tom Hankey did not hit a single batter during the regular season. Ron Gant comes in to run for Lonnie Smith.
And the plot thickens. Ron Gant with 9 consecutive stolen bases in postseason play. Make that 10.
With a stolen base last night for Gant. He's at first with 1 out in the bottom of the 9th. 5-4 Toronto. And the batter Otis Nixon, who was 0 for 4 in this ball game.
If you're Ron Gant at first base and you're thinking about running, and you got to assume that he is, then you want to pick a split finger fastball on which to run. So unusually, I would imagine he will wait for Nixon to get in the hole, either 0-1, 0-2, 1-2, or run on the first pitch.
The first pitch is slapped to center field. And Devon White makes the catch. 2 away in the 9th inning. The Blue Jays 1 out away from evening the series at 1 apiece. Jane Fonda hoping for divine intervention for the Braves. They've already had 1 miracle this week. Wouldn't you know that Deion Sanders would come up when it means most. He's 1 for 3 tonight. He singled and scored in the 5th inning. He's also walked and stolen 2 bases tonight. Gant, the pinch runner at first. 2 outs, bottom of the 9th, 5-4 Toronto. And as Hankey eyed Ron Gant at first base, Sanders backed out. Olerud is holding Gant on, and at the other corner, Kelly Gruber is all over the third base line. Prevent a ball being hit down in the left field corner. Off the end of the bat, a cue shot toward the Toronto dugout. It's 1 ball and 1 strike. Certainly a tough task for Sanders. He's been dividing his time the last couple of months between football and baseball. And as a result, tonight's start is just his 3rd for Bobby Cox in the last 42 Braves games. He hasn't had many swings lately, period, but particularly not against the 95-mile-an-hour type fastballs of a pitcher like Hankey. The 1-1 pitch. Chopped foul. And now the Braves are down to their final strike in game 2.
I think you can look for Gant to be running here. There is a reluctance to run when, if you're thrown out, that's the last out. I think that's the reason that Gant hasn't tried to steal up to this point. But with the count 1 and 2, if I'm Bobby Cox, I send him right now.
Will Hankey come with a fastball or forkball? It was the forkball, and Sanders got a piece of it to stay alive at 1 and 2. Toronto 5, Atlanta 4. 2 outs. Ron Gant, the runner at first in the bottom of the 9th. And he draws a throw. almost incredible silence here at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium in anticipation of the 1-2 pitch. Here it is. And again, Sanders just got it off the end of the bat toward the Blue Jay dugout to stay alive.
He has fouled off some very, very difficult splitters from Tom Henke, and he'll probably get another one.
Another 1-2 pitch. Low and in. 2 balls and 2 strikes. If Sanders can keep the Braves alive, Terry Pendleton would bat next. Now the 2-2 pitch. Slapped away. And Dion has managed to get a piece of the fork ball and the good fastball from Henke. This will be the 8th pitch to Deion Sanders with Gant running. It's ball 3. And Borders did not attempt to throw to second with the ball in the dirt. So now the tying run is in scoring position with 2 outs, and Sanders has battled to a full count.
Now Kelly Gruber, who was on the line, gets off the line because a base hit ties the score. You don't want to protect against a double in this situation. Olerud is more on the line. He should be toward the fatter part of the field. Gruber is toward the fatter part of the field, moved off the line. There's no sense in protecting against a double here.
With that stolen base, the Braves have tied a World Series record. 5 stolen bases by one team in a 9-inning game. And now they'll talk it over with the 9th pitch upcoming to Deion Sanders.
Because if Henke retires Sanders, there will be 5 stolen bases in a losing effort. I think I would rather challenge Deion Sanders than Terry Pendleton.
Now the 3-2 pitch. Just missed.
This is a terrific at bat by Deion Sanders. This pitch just missing low. The splitter. And now Terry Pendleton's up there. Much more experience. And remember, he led the National League in hits with runners in scoring position this year. A .387 batting average. And here it is.
Led all of the major leagues, did Pendleton. Lou Whitaker of Detroit was second, and the Blue Jays' Roberto Alomar fourth. So Pendleton will come up with the tying run at second, the winning run at first, at excellent speed on the base paths, with Gant the runner at second and Sanders at first. Galen Cisco out to the mound. Certainly the Blue Jays will sink or swim here in the bottom of the 9th with Tom Henke.
What makes Pendleton so difficult in these situations is his ability to hit any pitch. He can dig a ball off the ground. He can hammer it helmet high, outside, inside. Great plate coverage for a little man.
Toronto leads 5-4. They took the lead on a pinch hit 2-run homer in the top of the 9th by Ed Sprague. First and second with 2 down for Atlanta in the bottom of the 9th, and Pendleton with a little pop-up. Kelly Gruber in the foul ground. He has it. And the Blue Jays have evened this series at 1 win apiece. Ed Sprague, the unlikely hero tonight. His wife won a gold medal earlier this summer. And tonight, Ed Sprague won over the hearts of every Canadian. The final score in Game 2 of the World Series. The Blue Jays 5, the Braves 4. We'll come back. Interviews with Pat O'Brien and Jim Cott in just a moment.
Pat O'Brien back at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. Kelly Gruber with the final out, and a chop, chop, chop. Almost I told you so motion there to the Atlanta Braves fans, and the fans are stunned here as they exit for the parking lot in a thriller. They lose to Toronto. Toronto's obviously first World Series win. Atlanta's first loss here in Atlanta, 5-4, the final score. And our MVP of the game, of course, is Ed Sprague, who began the season as a AAA ball player in Syracuse, and he's standing by right now with Kitty Kopp. But before we do that, let's say that Chevrolet will donate $1,000 in his behalf to the Special Olympics. If we got that out of the way, let's get on to Kitty and Mr. Sprague, fellas.
The bench tonight and swung at that first pitch like you said. I know I'm going to get a fastball. I'm going to rip at it first one I see.
I was watching.
You can't hear this.
First pitch, the right-handers, and he'd been coming out with a fastball, and then once he got ahead, he'd go to the slider. So I just said, Lawrence Mullenix, he just told me, hey, make sure he gets the fastball down to you, and I just said, look for something I can stay over.
Is that what you guys do on the bench? I know you have the trench patrol or whatever it is with you and Derek Bell, so you look forward to
reward.
Yeah, you look forward to times like that when you have to go up and swing the bat.
Well, that's what we're here for. Someone's got to play our role, and Derek had a big at bat getting the walk. He battled off some tough pitches, and he gets on and gives me a chance to do something. I was just looking for a ball to drive.
This seems to be a different Toronto team from what I've seen in the past. You fellas have not been swept in a series all year, but even in games like this late where you're behind, there is a certain confidence about this team.
Yeah, well, we came from behind off Eckersley, and I think that really built our confidence, especially in postseason play. We hadn't played real well in the past, but, this team with the bats that we got with Robbie and Devo and Joe and some guys that can run, you're never really out of it. You get a guy on, he can steal, and if you're, you got a chance and you get Joe and Dave up in situations where they hit the ball in the ballpark, you're really not out of any games.
All right, let's take a look at that home run that Ed Sprague hit right now. Low fastball that he got from Jeff Reardon, and even though we're not getting a first-hand look at it right here, you can remember vividly. And what a night what a year really for the Sprague family with your wife winning a gold medal.
Yeah, I'm real proud of her. She did a great job. She was kind of the underdog when she went over there, and she she proved everybody wrong, and she had a great swim, and I'm really happy for her, and it was her time, and now she's retired, and
now it's your time.
Now it's my
time. All right, and the Blue Jays' time. They go home tied at 1. Let's go back to Pat O'Brien.
A gold medal for his wife and a golden moment for him. Once again, the final score of the game, game 2, Toronto Blue Jays 5, the Atlanta Braves 4. Join us again on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time for Game 3 of the World Series from Skydome in Toronto. Steve Avery will take the mound for Atlanta. Toronto will counter with Juan Guzman.
CBS Sports coverage of Game 2 of the 1992 World Series.
You've been watching the 1992 World Series on CBS Sports. This almost became the night that they put the Rob back into Roberto. Instead, an obscure catcher is the hero. Obscure no more. Oh, Canada, here we come. Not at that one.